Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today, I'm just going for a different time zone. People have been telling me, hey man, I've been missing the lives. It's not a good time for me. So hopefully this is a good time for you. It's about 10 minutes to 8 p.m. where I'm at. And if the response is good, maybe I'll do it again. So the night owls aren't. Jesse Chapman, what's up, buddy? How you doing? How you living? Large and in charge, I hope. David Jeffers, it's been a while, as the great song Stain goes. How's your job, man? How's teaching? Dating and listening leads to better breakups. What? Who wants a better breakup? A better breakup than a bad one. Yeah, pretty good, man. Cracking on as always. Well, you know what? It's just sometimes you just gotta be happy to be alive, right? Especially in times like this, folks. I got a couple stories on deck, which I'll drop. Oh, Johnny's going to double down on 2 live streams today? Oh, my goodness. Have you ever met another Oh, Johnny? Oh, Johnny? Oh, Johnny. Boy, I could write a book about my shit, bro. I'll tell you what, I could buy. I think we could all write a book. You know what's amazing about that, Jesse? Is everyone could write a book about their life. And the books wouldn't be uninteresting. Listen to this for a minute. The books wouldn't be uninteresting because your life wasn't uninteresting. It would just be because your interpretation and your writing style was shitty. So that's what's really funny about that. Is it wouldn't be like, oh, my story's not very good. It would be more like the person's interpretation of what went down. Because some people, right, they can tell, you just meet people like that. They just tell a fucking hell of a story. I mean, you're in the UK. Aren't Irish people like that? I'm a McCarthy, so I'm Irish a little bit. But Irish people go, no, you're not. You're a McCarthy, but you're American. You're not Irish. Who told you you're Irish? Shit. Look at your clothes. But I mean, isn't it true? Someone can tell a story and you go, God damn, this guy tells it. I had a friend from the UK, actually. He was from Yorkshire. And I'm saying that wrong, right, Jesse? Yorkshire? Good friend of mine. Really good friend of mine. Hilarious guy. I've talked to him before that he should be on the live stream. He said, man, we talk over each other all the time. I'm bad about that, too. I'm bad about that. I've gotten a lot better, but if someone's a talker and we're talking, I'm just going, when am I going to get in? Now I'm a very good listener. I've developed that, especially with breakup coaching. I won't talk over people when we're deep in it and you're, talking about your breakup. But when it's a yarn someone's spinning or, a story or something like that, I want to get in there. And this guy would just tell some stories sometimes, and I'd think to myself, you do tell some tales. And and the amazing thing is he was like appalled. He's like joking. He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, come on, man. Like, that's not true. I mean, so they're great stories. They're funny. I'll give you a story he had that's absolutely hilarious. And I'll get into dating and listening leads to better breakups in a moment. But we got an all-star crowd already on deck. 6, that's enough to have fun. Right? Jenny Jen. G Money from Cincinnati, home of the great Pete Rose, the original Charlie Hustle. This is a good story, right? G Money's going to appreciate this one because it's been a while, so I'm glad you're on deck. So this friend of mine, this is just going into how people can just tell a great story. This friend of mine, he would tell these stories about hooking up with women. And there's some guys out there, Jenny, I don't like when it's guy talk, you're like, what? What happened? Then this happened, then that happened. And you're like, really? Right? I would say a majority of guys don't get that detailed actually on their intimate events. I would say I don't know how it is for you and your buddies G Money, but like nitty-gritty details, not so much. It's more like, did you hook up with her? Not in those words. Or did you not? That's it. Yeah, we hooked up. Really? You hooked up with her? Yeah, we hooked up. There's no like details about it usually. But getting back to this story, this guy would tell details. And this dude, let's just say he was he's heavy set. Heavy set. Didn't have a big wardrobe, but had a great personality, scared of nothing when it came to women. Great sense of humor. Fearless. And he's telling me this story about this woman that he was hooking up with that was married, but he didn't know she was married. So he says, you know, they were going out for a while, and he thought it was kind of weird that she was meeting him in places that weren't public. Like she didn't want to be seen with him. And I said, well, that's a red flag. I don't know if that's ever happened to me where you're hooking up and she doesn't want to be seen with you, and you didn't put it together that maybe she had another guy. I mean, anyhow, she never told him supposedly. So he claims that what she liked was she'd like him to dress up like a burglar, basically, and break in through her window. Not like break the window, but like come in through the window. And like I said, keep in mind, this guy's a bit heavy set. He's not an athlete. I'll just put it this way. He's my friend, so I'm being nice. And so I said, what do you mean? He goes, well, I'd put on like a beanie and I'd go around the back and go through the window, mate. And I was like, what? This is, I mean, you know, you're in your, I think he's in his early 30s, right? This is like teenage type shit. But he was saying that it was something that she liked. I'm thinking that she was embarrassed for him to walk through the front door because her mom lived at home. And she was in her late 20s, early 30s. But come to find out later on, he's claiming that, no, it was because she was married. I think it was a little bit of both. But it was one of those stories where I was like, really? Come on, dude. You know? He's like, no, man, I used to break it. And he said, you know, he'd do it all the time. That's where I was like, all right. I mean, what would be odd to me, you get to a certain age and you're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. We'll meet at a hotel or something. I didn't buy the fact that she liked him dressing up as a burglar. If she wants him to meet through the window, that's shame to me. Sorry. But the way he told the story, I mean, I'm not even doing it close to justice. You know, there'd be long pauses. There'd be, you know, straight face, right? And you're going, really, dude? I don't even know if you can get through the, you know, window properly. Hilarious. Hilarious, dude. All right, so grape fetish. Scandalous. I haven't heard that word in a long time. I mean, I'm sure there's some crazy stuff out there, right? There's some things that go down where people are like, where'd you get that one from, you know? But dressing up as a burglar in your early 30s and you're pretty heavy set and, you know, breaking in as a turn on, strange. People that have to constantly talk about how they hook up, they probably don't. Yeah, there was another story, actually. This reminds me of when we were in high school, because there's a lot of, when I was in high school, we used to call them wolf tickets. I don't even know if that phrase is still around. I'm at an age now, G Money, where like I'll say something and I'll be like, wow, like this word that gets passed around, everyone calls everyone a simp. We never even used that word. It was Captain Save-A-Ho, or it was just Captain. That guy's a captain. And I remember, though, there was a guy in high school that was a friend of mine. And he had, I feel bad even mentioning about it. But basically, he didn't have a really good way with women. Maybe it was looks. There was a couple different things. He had a bit of a speech impediment. And but he was a friend of mine. We were cool, good friends. That's why I feel bad saying that, but it's just true. And now he's doing great. Married with kids, outstanding person. Always was a good dude. But it's, you know what? It's tough in high school, right? When you have a couple things. Kids are mean when they're young, man. And one of his best friends, I'm going somewhere with this, folks, so stay with me. One of his best friends in high school would always talk about, oh, he hooked up with some girl outside of school, and he had all these, but he was never hooking up with anyone that went to our school, right? And they were best friends. So he would always tease this guy about being a virgin and about not hooking up with women and all this other stuff, which was totally out of line because it was his good friend, and you just don't do that. You just don't do that. You don't go there with your good friend when you know it's not happening anytime soon. If anything, you want to encourage him. So this guy was a dick from the get-go. Anyways, they were friends. I shit you not, years later in their early 20s, they were hanging out, and the dude told him, you know what, bro? I was also a virgin the whole time, and the story I told you about some of those women I was with, I was just bullshitting. And my buddy was so pissed. And it was like 5 years later. And I was like, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I mean, but he told what I would call a whopper, where you're just like, what? There was a couple guys I went to high school though with. They were just you just knew they just told whoppers. They were just stories where you're like, no way. But everyone would be like, oh yeah, I told another one, you know. All right, we got 8 on deck. I'm waiting for 10 so I can get to the stories. I like it when people can hear the story from the beginning. FM, AM. Hey, what's up, FM? I had a coffee at about 6 p.m. It's about to strike 8 p.m. where I'm at. I never have coffees this late, so I'm going to be fresh. It's approval-seeking behavior. Sure it is. You know, when you're in high school and stuff and you're that age, you don't know any of these terms, though. People are just being humans. Competitive social status, whatever that means, right? You know, you look back and it's like, oh, yeah, that was approval-seeking behavior. Oh, that was narcissism. Oh, that was this. When you're in high school, it's like, that guy's a dick. He's a liar. Right? You know what I mean? It's such a different terminology now, years later with the internet and everyone, myself included, learning about psychology. I mean, I would have liked to major in psychology, but I've watched enough videos now and read enough books. I don't know if I'm the equivalent to a master or a PhD, but I got a pretty good basis of it. But a lot of people come up with these terms. I'm like, where'd you even learn that one, right? Well, that's classic. That's a classic avoidant attachment / such and such, right? You know what I mean? It's like, just call it what it is, man. Just call it what it is. It's like the dude was a liar. Oh no, he had trauma issues. He had this, he had that. Okay. If that's terminology we need to use, that's cool. It's probably accurate. It's still an interpretation, right? How about the good old days when you just called someone a name and it was a name, right? You need to watch a film called Sex Lives of a Potato Man. I don't know. I'll leave that one to you, Jesse. It's so funny, kind of relates to your friend. Yorkshire, seriously recommend. It's a proper British film as well. I've been passed along British skits from friends. I got a few good friends in the UK, or from the UK. And I've got a few good clients from the UK, including yourself, Mr. JC. Of course, I have a girlfriend. She just goes to another school. You guys wouldn't know her. Oh, man. How ruthless is that, though? Your best friend is struggling because he gets no action, no attention from a lot of women, right? Totally insecure. It's a bad environment in high school to be in with that, right? It's tough. It's just tough. And then your best friend goes and tells you all these semi-erotic stories in Conquest that were done out of school, and you're like, oh man, this guy's really got it going. Oh, he's good with the and then 5 years later, he admits to you, yeah, I actually was not very good with women either. I just lied to you. It's like, damn. Man, that's just low character. Just low character, man. Jenny's having a coffee too? Okay. I rarely do that. I rarely have a coffee later on, but it's good. Some people were, like I said, were complaining that they didn't get the time slot as usual. UK on the deck? Very good, Jesse. Right. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Just chilled out today, going for a run. Getting after it, as David got. My friends were virgins for a long time, and I had to go out of my way to never mention sex until they had it. I think it's kind of a cheap shot. It's a cheap shot to throw it out there, because does it really matter? Does it really matter that much? I've had clients before where, like, I've had clients like I was a virgin until I was 25, or I was a virgin until I was 27. Who cares, dude? You know what I mean? It's like you're on deck now. You know this, but you missed it, G Money. We were just talking. I think it was the day before yesterday. I came across this podcast, and this guy was named G Money. You can look it up. Frank Kermit, and he was on a. I'm gonna repeat this because Jesse didn't hear about this, and I don't think David did or G Money. But some people that watch my live streams later on, this might be redundant. But anyways, this guy. He's just, another quote-unquote dating coach, or, whatever you want to call it. And I caught this podcast that was recommended in the YouTube algorithm or whatever. And you got to see his picture. So look it up right now, G Money, if you could push in Frank Kermit on YouTube and just see the picture that pops up for a moment. Right. Hold on a sec. I'm actually going to do this on the Discord. If you guys haven't joined the Discord yet, feel free to do so. Let me pull this up. But here's the best part, right? He reminds me of a friend I went to school with, right? Yeah, and like I said in this live stream a couple of days ago, I'm not hating, because he could be he could be good with women still and stuff like that. It's just he looks just like this guy I used to know. Anyways, so I just out of curiosity, like we do, popped on the podcast, and he was talking about dating and women, how he got started and whatnot. And David Jeffers is dying too. And so with the hat, right, with the little Cuban hat too. So he was talking about how he got started, and he got his ex-wife back, and he got closure because sorry, because I'm looking at it right now too. He got closure after he got his ex-wife back, so then he just started dating and get really good at it. And he said, so he got to a point where he was, dating two women. I'm sorry, I'm getting off topic because I'm just laughing every time I look over. So he said that he went on a date with two women on Valentine's Day because he decided, you know what, I'm dating two women and I don't want to make a choice. So he said he got in the car and drove the two women. He drove the two women to his date. He arranged a restaurant where they would be seated facing him, and they both sat in the back. He drove. Right? He's telling the story on the podcast, and I'm like, what's being left out here, G Money? Because I don't. First of all, more power to you, Frank Kermit. And I believe that he probably, because he's at a point, I went to his website, I checked out some of the other things, and he's got a lot of videos out there, right? And he's got a lot going on, and he's been interviewed and stuff. More power to him, right? More. This isn't me taking shots at his look, because he, like I said, he reminds me of a good buddy of mine. And I wouldn't doubt that he does well with women, but here's what you leave out when you go, yeah, I took 2 women on a date on Valentine's Day. What would be G-Money, David Jeffers, Jesse Chapman, because Jenny already heard this from me before. I'm sorry if it's redundant, Jenny, because this is a different group. What would be the question, though? What would be, like, G-Money, you and your buddies are out, and your buddy's like, oh, dude, I couldn't make a choice on Valentine's Day, so I just took them both out. What would be the first question? Yeah. It's just like, or show me a picture, right? I wouldn't immediately go to hate. I wouldn't immediately go, yeah, right. I would, I'd be like, yeah, that's possible. But yeah, and so this is actually in the process of kind of making a little bit of a joke here. He's gonna get a few people to check his stuff out. So, which is great. I haven't looked at it too often. I just heard that little snippet, and I just thought, here's where you go, okay, I've been with 4 girlfriends. I've had 4 serious girlfriends. And I was like thinking to myself, none of those 4 girlfriends would even consider going on a date where you brought another woman with you, where they were going to compete in person. Now, were they aware when we were dating that I was single and maybe seeing some other women? Yeah, that's a totally different scenario. But when someone goes, oh, I was dating this gorgeous woman, like, well, let me take a look at the picture, dude. Or are they emotionally down and out? I mean, the quality over quantity, quantity over quality, that becomes the question, right? That becomes the big question. I mean, what is it that you're doing so well with? So here's the other part that you're going to get a kick out of, G-Money. You're going to get a kick out of this. So if you go to search him on YouTube, the second or third thing that comes up, The Complete Guide to Losing Your Virginity, Even If You're 25, How to Talk to Girls podcast. That's actually a title. And if you click it, it says inappropriate content. So it's been taken down. But this guy had that as he had it as a topic. The Complete Guide to Losing Your Virginity, Even If You're 25. Oh, man. When you think about it, it's easier than you think. It's just a matter of what you're settling for, Frank. I think it's hilarious, though. And like I said, more power to you, man. I'm not doubting that he has game. I'm not doubting that. I would be suspect of the if he was like, oh, they've all been 10s or something like that. I remember, this has got to be like 20 years ago. This makes me feel slightly old, not old, but The Bachelor, because I don't even watch these shows anymore. But it was one of those type of shows, probably like the first season, because this is 20 years ago or something, if that show's that old. Anyhow, I remember there was a guy, and one of the guys was from Boston. I'll never forget this because it was me and my college roommates watching it. We were like 21, 22. And this one guy was kind of nerdy, skinny, and he had a thick Boston accent. And I remember I'll never remember his line. So he gets to the very end with this woman that's quote unquote hot by TV standards, right? She's fit, as you would say in the UK, which I like that term. She's fit, right? And there was another guy that would be regarded as like a guy model. Sometimes people call him Chads now or whatever. He had like blonde hair. He was, he went to the gym and stuff. And he didn't have near the personality of the guy from Boston. He didn't have near the personality of the guy from Boston. The other guy from Boston had character. He had humor. He was just kind of scrawny, and but he was fearless. And the other guy, he was blonde. He was like how should I say this? Not very sharp. Okay, so they get to the end, and she has to choose between them. And the guy from Boston goes on a final date with her. And one of my buddies is like, she's not going to choose the nerdy guy. She's just not going to. And I was like, nah, she's going to choose that guy. The guy's, such a cooler dude, nicer guy. Because he was cool. He was funny, too. And I remember he goes, during the date, he goes, I've had a box around my heart for my entire life. And you've opened up that box. And I feel like there's a real chemistry here. And if we keep this thing going, I think it could be absolute magic. And she was like, oh my God, like she was touched. And I was like, okay, this guy, like, he had some great lines and all. And the other guy would just be like, yeah, hey man, let's go for a jog. Like, what's up? He had like no character. Who did she choose? Who did she choose at the end? Who do you think she chose? Dun, 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 dun. I'll have to look this one up. JFK? This is how that guy sounded, though. I've had a box around my heart. I've had a box around my heart for my entire life, and I feel like you've opened up the box. And, yep, the blonde guy won. She chose him in a millisecond, and the last thing, and the Boston guy just was wrecked. He was wrecked. He was totally wrecked by it. Totally wrecked. He was wrecked by it, man. And I remember that. What? My friend's like, I told you, man. No way. No way. And I was like, all right. I mean, that's how the cookie crumbles a lot of times. By the way, now let's think about this, because we got some guys on here. Jenny's on the block here, but do you think if you were in that situation and there was a woman that wasn't? What's up, Pete? Thanks for chiming in, and thanks for contributing on the Discord. I appreciate you, bud. Do you think if the same situation arose for a guy and he really liked a girl's personality, right? And she wasn't nearly as attractive as the girl that had trouble chewing gum and walking at the same time, do you think it would end up the same way? See, because a lot of people are like, oh no, personality counts. This, that, and the other. There is something missing from the equation, though, in these things. There is a big part of something missing in the equation. When they have these shows, and I haven't watched one of these shows in years because I don't even live in the States, so I don't get into what would you call these? I know they're fake, but the reality TV, I haven't watched them in years. Hey, guys are visual creatures. But there is something missing from when they meet each other, they date each other, they go on these dates and whatnot and stuff like that, that would sway a guy's decision and would have the guy choose the woman that's not as good looking. Ah, that's interesting, G-Money. That's so funny because a friend of mine recently was saying, he's younger, and something came up about there was an older woman on TV that was attractive. And I was like, would you? And he was like, if she was super high interest in him. And I just started dying. So if she's super high interest, what does that mean? It's easier? The Bachelor is actually on Thai Netflix now. Swordfish. Danny drops in. That's a great tag name. Swordfish. Women can be with a guy that's a prick if his status is high enough. But I'm saying what's missing from the equation in these shows, right? Do they ever get to sleep together? Do they get intimate? Because that changes the game. That actually changes the game. You meet a guy and you're like, damn, Bobby's with the woman. I don't know. She's all right. Or the opposite, a woman sees her friend with a guy and they're like, damn, you know what? Kim, I've never seen her with a guy like, he's a nice guy, but wow, he's a really nice guy. Thanks, Jesse. Ding, 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 ding. Correcto. I'll just put some music on for that right there, Jesse. Right? That's actually one of the missing ingredients. The individual that doesn't look as good could win in that department, and it's curtains. Now, here's what's interesting. A live stream eons ago, I don't know when it was, years ago now or 100 back, there was some guy that was like, how can a woman end up with a how can a woman end up getting with an ex-con? He's has no money. This, that, and the other. He's lining up all these things, right? I just don't understand it. And then the woman drops the line on the live stream. She goes, "That's the power of the D." And I thought to myself, damn, guys just don't think about it. They don't think in that terms. They're like, I don't want to think that. Yeah, maybe all these things about this guy don't line up, and the reason she's with him is actually because the intimacies go for her. Wow. All right, dating and listening leads to better breakups. Got on a tangent. I just had to switch it up and have a little humor because I know G Money appreciates it. Right? Jesse Chapman, David Jeffers, it's been a while. Pete CD, who was on this morning. Morning for me, evening for you. Oh, Johnny doubled back, putting in some OT on the live stream. Jenny's here. Sabina's on deck, I think, still. And FM, if you're still on deck. So I got a couple stories to share. Sex changes everything, and if two people like each other, it can go a lot deeper as well. Yeah, okay. Hopefully they liked each other enough to go to bed together, right? Forgot how much fun this stream is. Sorry for being a stranger. No joke. No big deal. It's late at night sometimes. What motivated me actually recently, I've had people that'll send me emails, and they'll be like, I keep missing the live streams. I really like your live stream. And it's not like I'm inundated with 1,000 people, right? The live stream gets up to 20 people sometimes, right? And people go, oh, you should have more views. Double down right now. Had a coffee late in the evening. I said, you know what? I'm going to get on the sticks. Jenny drops in, the D is important. Unless he's paid for it. Like I said, it was so funny because, like I said, the guy was just going on and on about how his ex left him for an ex-con, how the guy had nothing going for him. He was a loser. Basically saying all the things that the guy was bad in the finance department, work department that he was good in. And then the woman just dropped in and threw that one in and went, okay. Reality check. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, so we do have a story. I am feeling spry. I'm feeling good. We look like we have the usual suspects on deck, but if someone wants to call in through Skype, I would be open to taking a call right now if you want to unpack a story. It was kind of funny. I think I told some people a couple days ago, someone hit me up on live stream. Hey, man, I need your help. This is sometimes the instant messages from live stream. Hey, I need your help. You know, message. Okay, go to writemac.com, send your story in. I don't think that's unreasonable, right? Oh, no, I already wrote my story, man. Did you pay? Was it $25 for the public video? No, I didn't see anything about pay. Wow. Are you the only one that didn't see anything? Because that's the next step. And then it was like, I just wanted to talk to you. Okay. So you know what I did? I offered him. I said, hey, man, you want to come on a live stream, make it public, and we'll sort through it. Nah, I'm a private person, man. I don't want to do that. It's like, all right, well, I guess it's not going to be a win-win. So let's get into it. And anyone who's on deck that has a breakup situation that they want to unpack fully and completely, I'm open to calls on Skype. Or if they've had a new twist or turn in their current relationship, let's do it. Let's talk. So here's the breakup story right now. The guy titled it Youre Next, which is something I tell people a lot of times. Beware, listen, which is the title of this. Listen when you're dating, because it leads to better breakups. What do I mean by that? There's a lot of value in breaking up at the right time. I don't think a lot of people talk about this. Excuse me. I don't think anyone talks about if you got out of a relationship that was rocky and choppy and shitty, right? If you get out early, like 3-6 months, come on, man. That's actually a great move. Oh, you know, she did this, he did that. And you got out after 3 months, take a bow. Take a fucking bow, man. That's actually skillful dating. People that are really good with women, or women that are good with men, by the way, that, you know what they're good at? Eliminating people that aren't good matches and riding off into the sunset with a shit-eating grin, right? And just going, yeah, go ahead, explain yourself. I don't care. I'm done. But if you can listen when you date someone, they tell you everything. Start with the I am phrases. Well, I'm this, I'm that. One of the ones just recently someone told me, and he wrote out the story. She wrote, this relationship's going to be really difficult, and it's going to take me a long time. But if you stick it out, it could be worth it for you. Yeah, thanks, but no thanks. I'm not interested in starting a relationship where you find it difficult. Give me a break, right? I mean, when I read that, I said, well, this is a red flag. Yeah, I kind of thought so, but I told her I could be patient. Oh, that's great for her, but she's making a declaration statement, subconsciously saying, hey, this is going to be difficult. What does that mean? That means that even if you do everything right, she's going to want to be right because she stated it. And so she's going to create difficult things. She's not interested in an easy flow relationship. If you start out with turbulence, if you start out and the water's dammed up, you want a river. You want things to just flow. Then you come through to some problems, this, that, and the other. You don't want to start out with something when someone goes, hey, you know what? This relationship's going to be really difficult, but if you stick with me, it's going to be worth it. Excuse me, hon. I'm not up for it. I'm not up for an obstacle course to start out a relationship, and I'll pass. But you know what? Let's finish up dinner. Let's have a glass of wine, or I would have a beer probably or something like that. And, let's end this on the right note. That would be a beautiful finish, right? You didn't hurt. In other words, like, no problem. Thanks for letting me know it would be difficult, because I don't need a relationship to be easy, but I don't want someone that puts a stamp on it early. Hey, this is how it's going to be. It doesn't have to be Hollywood, but let's just go out and have a good time. Let's get to know each other. Let's be in the moment. And if something difficult arises, let's deal with it. Stating that it's going to be difficult down the road, no thank you. Youre Next. Hey, coach, love the channel. Love the compliment. I was married for 4 years. This woman is gorgeous and cute and beautiful. Wow, those are 3 different types of cute, beautiful, gorgeous. All right. She's just special. Well, I get it. She also got this other side to her. Well, everyone's got a few sides to them. She loves to gossip about work and the neighbors and anyone she meets that she doesn't like. Sound like someone you know, folks? Yeah, there's people out there that like to gossip. There's people out there that like to talk about behind people's back. It's very human. I've done it in my life before. I don't think I do it at a high level. If it's at a level where it's mean and it's constant, it can be detrimental. And over time, most people she doesn't like. If she feels crossed or offended once, it's over. She hates them. Huge red flag. Huge red flag. She doesn't say she hates them, but she'll just talk about them like they are scum. I'm 33 and she just turned 25, so my mother told me she's just immature and it's her age. Well, there's 25-year-olds that don't act that way. He writes, I guess. Well, around the 4-year mark of the marriage, she felt like one of my good friends crossed her. So this is where that situation comes in, and he was right to title it Youre Next. Obviously, watch some other video because I use that line all the time. He's saying she did this with other people. If she hates someone or she feels cross, she'll hate them forever. You're next, or your friend's next. Because, newsflash, if you're around people long enough, you're going to cross them up sometimes. That's just how it is. And if their way of dealing with that is to go for the kneecaps immediately, those people like that are dangerous. They're dangerous to be around because they don't use reason or logic. They just use emotion, and they feel like they're always right. He said something rude about the dinner she cooked. So the best friend said, he said something rude about the dinner she cooked, but it wasn't anything over the top. He basically said the food was undercooked and that we should have a barbecue at his house next time and have some real food. It was rude, but he's a good friend, and I know his personality. You know what? Grow up. Rude or not rude in your book, it's not grounds to get in an argument or a fight with. I have friends that might say that. I might even say something like that. And if it was in a playful manner, you could get upset about it, but to say that you never want to see that person again is ridiculous. I laughed it off. She admittedly went into passive bitch mode, his words. She ignored him when he asked her a question about her job, acting like he wasn't there. That's immature. Basically, no contact at the dinner table. It was awkward as there were other guests there. That night, she told me she never liked my friend, and he wasn't invited over again. Well, did she say he wasn't invited over to her birthday too? I said, well, what if he apologizes? See, right here, you're placating. But keep in mind, folks, he's in a 4-year marriage. So he's dealt with her before. He's probably placated to her wishes before. He's probably gave in before. So I said, what if he apologizes? I mean, if I was your friend, I don't know if I would apologize for something so petty. She said, what's done is done. She then told me that I was weak to not confront him at the table and stick up for her. But the fact that I laughed it off showed my true colors. Oh, God. So now you're the bad guy. You have to ask yourself, do you agree with that statement from her? If you don't apologize. That week, she slept in the guest bedroom, and loud enough for me to hear, she called her sister every night and basically told her all this negative shit about me. I wondered, did she know that I can hear everything? Well, you were probably trying to listen. She said she doesn't like the way I dress, that I have friends that don't respect her, and at one point she dropped that I don't even think I'm in love anymore. Dun, dun, dun. Bottom line is, you were next. She got really upset. She got embarrassed. Her ego got crushed, and now she wants to hurt you, and it's a domino effect. That crushed me, he writes. I love this woman. Of course, you're married. So I confronted her the next morning as I couldn't sleep all night. I said, look, I'm going to be honest. I heard your conversation last night. I said, look, I'm sorry. I'm going to be honest. I heard the conversation last night. Let's talk. Well, that sounds very mature of you. She then accused me of snooping on her conversation and stonewalled me immediately. Well, this is what she does. I went to work that day, shocked and wondering, is our marriage over? If your marriage is over because your friend had some issues with dinner and made a couple rude comments, you know what? C'est la vie. Bye-bye. You're 33, she's 25. Bet on yourself, pal. Because this is the issue. You're like, no, I love this woman. I want to make it work. Even if you make this work, right? Even if you make this work, this is going to be a playbook for the rest of the marriage. And she's going to get her way every time. I'm wondering, is our marriage over? I can't do this. This had happened before, but she didn't sleep in the other room, nor did I hear the words of, I don't love him anymore. So that night I put my foot down and said, we need to talk. She laughed and said, oh, now you're going to get tough? Oh. She's catpawing you. She yelled back, go ahead, say what you need to say. That's her putting you in her frame. I said, I love you, and I need to know if you're falling out of love with me. I heard you tell your sister this. I mean, what else are you going to say? But she responded, yes, I said that, but I do love you. It's just that I'm tired of you being so weak with your friends. It's just so, this is petty. This is petty and it is immature. And this is what happens when you marry someone that doesn't have a lot of life experience. In fact, I don't like any of your friends. They push you around and you don't even see it. It's sad. So now she's personally putting you down. If you take this shit and you apologize, you'll start to believe it to be true. And you'll start to be a weak little, I won't use the word. How do I respect you when you can't even stand up for your wife? Your friend embarrasses me like that at a group dinner. I responded, was it really that bad? She said, yes. My response, what do you want me to do to make this right with us? Oh, that's a booby trap. She said, drop your friend, first of all. We won't be hanging out with him again. Wow, dictating. She had a list of terms, huh? And in the future, promise me that you'll have a backbone and speak up for me. I said, okay, immediately. You're just setting the table to just be a doormat, dude. Deep down, I thought, well, I'll still hang out with my friend on my own and she can win. She'll always win. Let's just get back to being a couple. After that argument, I felt like things changed between us. She was more pushy with me and irritable. Here's the ironic thing. She's telling you to stand up and be stronger, and in that moment, you were pretty damn weak. That's ironic. Our intimacy tanked down the toilet, even though I tried. She continued to take shots at my friends any chance she got. Finally, again, I confronted her, and this time she looked me in the eye and said, you got it right when you listened to the phone call with my sister. I just don't love you anymore. Now, that's mean. That's mean-spirited. That's someone, like I said, they go for the kneecaps. They're not interested in negotiating love or a marriage. She just wants to win. I care about you, but I lost attraction for you that night with your friend, and it got worse after. If a rude friend at a dinner table lights the fire for this, she's 25 years old. Right now she's acting like she's about 18. That's generous. I said, I don't even talk to him anymore. She responded, I know, I just couldn't let it go. So we agreed that I'd move out and we could take a break. Of course you'd move out. That's right. We agreed, or you just, got down on your knees while you were putting your clothes away. Within a month, she was seeing someone else from work. See, that's fishy. I wouldn't be surprised if she already had intimacy with that guy or she was attracted to him. I know you don't want to hear that, but it sounds like she created a situation where you're the bad guy for extremely petty shit, and she gets to walk off and be with someone immediately afterwards. Sounds premeditated. Within a month, she was seeing someone else from work. She texted me and said, "I'm sorry, but the break is now a breakup. I met someone else." Dictating all the terms, my friend, all the terms. There's no easy way to say this, and I don't like texting it, but I've seen a lawyer and I want a divorce. I was crushed. I'm still crushed. That was 6 months ago, and now she reached out to me saying she misses me. I said, "I thought you were seeing someone else." She said that's over and it was nothing serious. Again, everything's in her frame. So we met for lunch and we talked. She brought up my friend again and talked more crap about him. But of course, because she's not going to talk about the fact that within a month she was already seeing someone else. By the way, he was there for me during the breakup. She then bashed the guy she was seeing. It was crazy. It's not crazy. It's who she is. It's who she is. It's not crazy. Here's the thing. People get appalled. They get upset. Don't blame someone for being who they are. Their life experiences are not your life experience. How they got raised, how they became the way they are, you'll never know. But bottom line is, that's who they are. It's not even crazy. It's just vindictive. I felt like, okay, this is the crap talker I remember. Crap talker? But honestly, she looks so damn good. Ding, ding, ding. She's 25, you're 33. You had to deal with some shit. This would be the only reason you're with her is it was outstanding intimacy or she's really good looking. Because why else would you deal with this shit? That night we slept together. It was wonderful. Of course it was. Of course it was. It had been a while for you probably. Now she's been staying over and we are talking about putting the divorce on hold. Well, just know that history repeats itself. Only this time I'm not sure. I just don't trust her. Well, you have good reason not to trust her. I feel like at 6 months I was just starting to move forward, then bam, she comes back to me. I want her back. Sounds like you got her back. But I don't trust her that she won't turn on me again. It's so quick. What should I do, coach? What should I do, coach? Well, I would say run, don't walk from this one. Easy for me to say because I can be objective. My feelings aren't involved. And I don't have any intimacy attached to this. If you were really going to flip the tables, you could go, you know what? I'm not really ready to get all in, but we could see each other. That would be putting it in your frame. But I am going to date I'm dating some other women. This relationship is not going to change. The dynamics of it are not going to change. So next time it'll be a different friend or someone didn't do something right. And instead of her going, this is what happens when people are, you could call it immature, but they're so stubborn and they want to win. They want to win the argument so bad that they'll build a case on anything. And they'll never say sorry or give in or take accountability. Because she still hasn't even said, yeah, I overreacted. She hasn't even said that. Yeah, you know what? You know what? I was wrong. It's more like, yeah, I'm not seeing this guy anymore. Do you want to get back together? If you decide to go with this woman, you might as well just cut off your ball sack and have a beanbag. Because you're gonna be even more on eggshells. You're gonna be even more on eggshells going, I just don't want to lose her again. I just don't want to lose her again. So anything she does or says, you're just gonna agree. But if you're really attracted to her, you have no other options. And let me add this. Be honest with yourself. If you feel like you can't do better or equal, you're probably going, oh man, but she's 25 and she's so great. She's this or that. It's there's been lockdown, there's been this. Go ahead, build your own case for it. Build your own case. But here's the thing. A year, 6 months, 2 years down the line, you're going to be calling Tyrone again, as the great song goes, right? You're going to be sending me your story again. Yeah, I know. She did it again. Oh, really? You didn't see the cheese on the trap? And this is what's great about you writing out this story. If you don't write out this story the way you wrote out this story, and I want to say thank you for the way you wrote out this story, because you're vulnerable and you're telling the truth and you don't look good in it, right? And I wasn't nice about it. But this is a way to reflect on things and go, holy shit, I didn't lay out all the fucking puzzle pieces before. This is interesting. Is that really who I've been? Right? You look at it and you go, wait a minute, man. Am I going to be that guy? And I know it's not easy. Everyone from the outside can go, oh yeah. If you were going to go about this, I would say, if you're going to consider it, don't make it easy. Don't just go, yeah, we're back together. It's all good. Right? Oh, yeah, whatever you want me to do. Hey, we just don't need to let's just get back together. But this is going to be the narrative throughout the marriage. If something she doesn't like or something she goes wrong, everything's going to be non-negotiable and you're just going to have to wilt. So if that's who you want to be in the marriage, and let me add to this. Some guys don't mind. They don't mind. You can go on all this red pill, masculine, feminine thing. Some guys out there go, I don't mind. I don't mind. This is how I treat women. Or I like to be a romantic, I've heard before. Or that's just how I am. And I just, I baby my women. Go for you. Someone else, oh, you can't do that. Go ahead. Don't cry about it later on, though. Don't cry about it if your intimacy tanks again. Because a woman might keep you around like that. Because it might be fun. It's like she's cat pawing you around. She's just playing with, oh, yeah. And she'll tell her friends, oh, watch this. Watch this. Hey, can you get us a couple drinks? Huh? Yeah, can you get us a couple sandwiches and cut the crust off the sides, please? And the friends are like, wow, he's great, isn't he? Yeah, he's outstanding. He also sits, stays, and doesn't bark. He's very well trained, right? It happens. Has anyone else ever seen out there, man or woman on the live stream right now, where you've witnessed, and Skinner, who comes on the live stream from time to time, has it's called secondhand embarrassment, and you're out with a couple, and the guy is so weak. He's so weak, and some other women are like, oh my God, he's so nice, he's so kind. And the guy's just like, she's making fun of him. She's talking down to him, right? It's like slightly verbal abuse, right? And you're watching it, and you're like, geez, man. And the guy's just like, he'll look over and he's like, oh, that's how women are. No, dude, that's how you are, actually. Have you ever witnessed it, though? Like I said, I've witnessed it when I was a kid, really bad, when it would be like my parents and their friends, and my dad would say something, not to the guy or anything. My dad would go, oh, poor Larry. Poor Larry. And the guy, and I remember being young and being like, yeah, his wife's just tough on him. She would just be, I was a kid, but I would just witness it. And I didn't know. I never witnessed that. My dad's ex-Vietnam vet truck driver, right? Marine. Put it together. My dad was never like pushed around or told what to do or anything like that. Wasn't a perfect guy. Has, had some things when we were young I won't get into. But I remember him just going, gee, and I would be a group dinner. It was like my mom's friend, and I would just be like, damn. And the guy just treated it like that's how marriages are, kind of a thing. And she would just, oh God, Larry, can't you do anything right? Oh, no, in front of people, and he'd be like, okay, what did you want me to do? What did you want me to do? Shh. But you know what? In situations like that, to each their own. For someone else to go, oh, this guy's so weird. If he's comfortable and he likes being in a relationship like that, it's actually harmless, right? But don't cry wolf down the road and go, what happened? I can't believe she did that to me, right? Well, she obviously never had a lot of respect for you. And that kind of behavior from a woman is learned. So if you go and meet her mom and see how their relationship is, you're next. As the story went, you're next, dude. If you're dating a woman, and this isn't always true, but she's close to semi-close to her parents, and her parents are still together, and you guys have dinner together, or you go on a few outings, or you're in the house just hanging out, really monitor and observe that shit, because you're next. And it won't be right away. It won't be in the honeymoon phase, but it'll start to bubble up. It'll start to bubble up. All right, I got one more story here, but it doesn't even hold a candle to that last one. But I'll get into it in a moment. Let me check the live stream, get a pulse on things. We're an hour in. It's funny because Clutch from Truth of Love says, you're up early? Actually, dude, it's 8:49 p.m. where I'm at. Let me just get some. Ross Pantera. I don't know if you've been on the live stream before. Amen, Mac, preach. But most men have a scarcity mindset, and that's okay. That's okay, but that's what's great about writing the story out and having it unpacked by me. It's not, and this is what's great when someone, this would be humiliating if it was Dr. Phil, right? I remember my sister and my mom used to watch Dr. Phil or something sometimes, and I'd be like, this is crazy that these guys would go on and get basically stripped down for obvious bad behavior in a marriage or a relationship, right? It's much better to have your story read like this, and then you don't have to, there's no shame involved. This is a much better, don't you agree? And so he could listen. I've had people go, I listened to what you said about my story like 8 times. It made a lot of sense. Yes, very good. Thank you. How are you? Super relaxed. Bless you. Ross. What is that a picture of, Ross? Is that lips? She is immature. Exactly. It'll make him look weak. Oh, right. Laffy Quince. My best ex is graduated tomorrow, but I'm not free. Should I send her a text? What's your opinion? What's your intentions, Laffy? Do you want to just send her a text just because she's graduating? Or do you want to send her a text because you somehow feel like it's going to get her attention and she's going to be your girlfriend again? I would guess, knowing you, that you just want to say congratulations. And if you just want to, what do you mean by I'm not free? Meaning like I'm not free to see her? That's gaslighting. That girl is dangerous. We're Where's your dignity in this situation? With time, she will become manipulative. I think she's already manipulative. He's in her frame. You're right, David. She belongs to the streets. You love Corey Wayne, huh? Run for the hills, man. This lady is a nightmare. Dead end with that relationship. Shit like this goes down all the time, folks. Just ordered the mug. Yes, David. Haha, amazing. She was sleeping with another dude before the divorce was even done. Wow, you're up early. She found a new guy a few weeks after. She'll just do it again. Not worth it. Could keep him as friends with benefits, but the relationship, hell no. That's exactly. Best case scenario, if you really have it cooking, that's what you do. Friends with benefits, huh? This is an example of a real bitch, Sabina says. Don't do it, man. Stuff that self-respect yourself. Do what you like. That's a good song. Wow, that's scary when you say it like that, Mac. A pleaser? Can't stand that. Male weakness to women is very sad. Secondhand embarrassment. Yep, very common. Same, can't stand them no matter. You know what's funny about secondhand embarrassment too, Clutch? Is when you witness it, the person that inflicts the embarrassment looks like the ass, whether it's a man or woman. If they make a fool out of their partner or put them down, and they think ego-wise, I think subconsciously that they're, I don't know if they're cool or what, but everyone else looking at them, you're the jerk. Everyone else is like, what a piece, like you had to do that in front of everyone. Same, can't stand them no matter women or men. If he could step back and see from the outside. I've always said this, Jenny. It would be great if they used the tactic. There was a show called The Nanny years ago with a British nanny. And what she would do with parents is she'd set up cameras and she'd videotape them. And so they could see their actions, and the parents would be crying hysterically about how they acted with their kids because they had no clue. Most of the people are like that, what they are deep in codependent relationship. The phrase happy wife, happy life comes to mind with that. Oh my God. Truth of love, I have a friend that says that. I have a friend that says that statement, and I always cringe. I mean, because that's a generalization where you're like, okay. It's a choice, though. Gee, money, that's harsh. I'm not going to repeat that. The live stream earlier was awesome. I got about halfway through it before I had to pass out. Psychological, emotional abuse. What's up, Ozzy? George Pleo. Shit happens when men prioritize looks over character. Ain't that the truth, Georgie? CD, watch it later. Have a good day. I don't think he can even change the dynamic and stay with her. Maybe shed be nice for a bit, but it'll wear off. Well, the problem is, Jenny, there's not even an accountability. Hey, I'm sorry. Hey, I overreacted. Hey, how are things? It's more like, yeah, I'm not even with that guy anymore. Let's talk. Yugoslavian, but that's not the real surname. I rewrite it because of the one TV show in Serbia where I'm a co-star on YouTube. Wow. You're a co-star on YouTube? Marco Gavrielpluk. Nice surname. Marco is with us. Top of the morning to you, Derek D. How you doing, lad? I don't have kind of feeling ever again, but yeah, I had to work tomorrow. Well, just hesitation like, damn, she cute. Miss her, but never want to get her back to be the same. Well, then just send her the text. Send her the text, dude. Send her the text and just, be you and be genuine and be honest and leave it alone. Hey, coach, rumor has it Thailand will open in October. I will send you my broken heart story. You can come to Thailand now. You just have to be quarantined for 2 weeks. Damn, Sabina is famous. Gotta go soon, though. Have a meeting at work. Right on, Marco. CD, good luck, Mark. Next time you do a stream at this time, let me know and we can do another call. All right. What time is it in Chile? Alternative spirituality. You are the one, my friend. You sent a message on one of my videos and you said it's too early for you, so here you go, my sir. Alternative spirituality, I shouldn't say sir, it could be miss. MXXM, good morning, coach. Having a bad day, but I'm here. Well, MXXM, why don't you tell me about it? I said earlier on the live stream, if someone wants to call in with a story that they want to unpack and they want to talk through Skype, I'm down to do a story today on Skype. So, MXXM, if you want to unpack your breakup, peace out, Cub Scout meeting. Peace out, Cub Scout. I was a Cub Scout as a kid. I can't do 2-week quarantine. I'd die of claustrophobia. I heard the room's not bad. Here's the one that I've heard that's really bad, G-Money. I mean, a Double D. Imagine quarantine with a wife and kids. And I'm not even saying that you don't have a good relationship with your wife and kids, but in one room, that's tough. I think it's pretty worth it because Thailand is absolutely gorgeous right now. Got to go to a meeting. Thanks, Max. See you later, everyone. G Money, keep being you. Have a good day. Have a great day. Alternative spirituality. Did you have any topics or a story you wanted to unpack? Like I said, if someone has a story they want to unpack, I'll take a call. All right, we got one more story. Hey, Mr. McCarthy, they write, I'd like some advice about my breakup. Here's my story. My ex left me 2 weeks ago. We were together for over 2 years. I'm 29 and she's 32. Okay. We got along great, past tense. We lived together most of the time. Recently, she stayed with her dad half the week as he had an ailment to attend to. During this time, she had to take her dad to the hospital for physical therapy. Okay. I just had to deal with that for my dad about a year ago out of a stroke. It's tough. This was about 3 months ago when it started. I immediately started hearing about how great the physical therapist was and that my dad really liked him. I'm assuming that he means the girl's dad really liked him. Every time they met, my girl would light up with glee. My girl would light up with glee to tell how great this guy / physical therapist was. Well, she's attracted to him maybe. One night she mentioned how she couldn't believe he was single. Well, that's a red flag. I mentioned, well, why don't you try to set him up with one of your friends? She scoffed. Oh, he wouldn't go for my friends. I left it alone. A few days later, she answered a text with a big smile. I said, who's that? She said, blank, because I don't say people's names on this. I said, you text each other? She snapped back, of course, about my dad. I said, okay, but then I noticed his name would come up again and again. So this is one of those things. I've had this in a relationship before where someone from work keeps coming up again and again, and they're funny. And I had a very secure, good relationship. And I remember what bothered me. But after we broke up, I thought to myself, she liked him. I don't think she acted on it, but People, you know, it doesn't mean she's screwing around or she's messing with him, but she's attracted to him and she's interested, and she subconsciously doesn't know she's showing her cards. But if she really was doing something with him, she wouldn't mention him. Does that make sense? She probably wouldn't be mentioning him. She wouldn't mention the guy at all if they were actually doing something. If she's interested or she finds him attractive or something like that, she might be divulging that in a passive way. But if she was actually seeing him, she wouldn't be acting gaga googa over it. I said, okay, but then noticed his name would come up again and again. I finally asked, are you into this guy or what? Just tell me. She sheepishly denied it. Wow, this is good words. Almost embarrassed. That means that, see, this could be one of those things that's kind of a crush. Then said he'd never go for me anyways. Ooh, that would hurt. I said, look, I know you like him. Where's this going? Be honest. She denied again and said, let's just drop it. Well, that's her frame. She wants to drop it because she doesn't want to tell you the truth. I don't think she's at this point messing around with this guy. So about a month ago, her phone goes while she's in the shower. I somehow impulsively checked the phone, which I don't do normally. It was a physical therapist. Hey, how you doing? Are we still on for tonight? Happy emojis. So I confronted my girl mid-shower. She said, what are you talking about? Then I showed her the phone. She had a shocked face, and she said, okay, we've met up a few times, but nothing happened. She broke down crying. It was to talk about being a physical therapist first. I said, you want to be a physical therapist? She said, yes. But over time, I've got some feelings for him, but we didn't sleep together or do anything. Just reading this, and I don't know her, I don't think she slept with him. I do think she likes him. I do think she has feelings for him. I don't know if that's a bullshit thing about being interested in physical therapy. Something just tells me I don't think she did. But yeah, it's going to be hard to trust her now, and she's interested in the guy. I said never. I never asked that. On the other hand, sometimes when people vehemently deny something that you never asked them, it is fishy. I said I never asked that. She cried. I walked out. That night, I followed her to see if she'd go to meet him. She did. I left quickly. I didn't want to see anything more. The guy looks like a complete cherry. Okay. The opposite of me. I gathered a knapsack and stayed at my buddy's a few days. She texted me off the hook. I ignored. See that? Texting you off the hook, the way this is being written, I don't think she's fully into this guy. I think she's interested. I think she's conflicted. I think she's still into you, or she wouldn't text you, or she wouldn't be crying. Then on the weekend, I came home and I gave her an ultimatum. It was me or him. Now, here's where an ultimatum, someone goes, oh, ultimatums end relationships. A lot of times they do. But someone that doesn't want to play games anymore or go, you know, I'm going to listen to you cry, it puts a line in the sand. I don't have a problem with it right here. You can't see him anymore. She explained that she couldn't do that, but she didn't want me to leave. I walked out. Well, you're just saying what's non-negotiable. I still got to get some things, but I thought I was done. I still got to get some things, but I thought I was done. Then a couple days ago, she called me crying and said she wants to work things out and she'll no longer meet this guy again, and she didn't sleep with him. What's your take on this, Coach? Well, you have a choice to believe her or not believe her. Do you trust her? Do you trust her? So this is a situation. There's a possibility. I know people are going to go, oh, they slept together. There's a possibility she's telling the truth that she didn't sleep with him. The way this went down. Okay? She's obviously had interest. She's obviously camouflaging being a physical therapist, whether she knows that's, some people fool themselves. Oh no, I really want to be a physical therapist. I've really always wanted to do that. Maybe she has a slight interest, but she really does like him. But he's got a choice to make. He's got a choice to make. Relationship Cow? Is that a YouTube channel or something? Relationship Cow? Relationship Cow says, I would be done. I think a lot of people would be done. Right? The question is, how much does he trust her? Word. Would he be able to get over this? Would he be able to get over this? Okay. Which would be no time soon. I would say he needs some time away, first and foremost. So it's only been a couple days. If he's staying at a buddy's house or somewhere else, he needs to consider letting the smoke clear to get his mind clear and process this. Because like I said, from the outside in, everyone's going, oh, you should just leave her. There's a possibility this one could be worked out. There's a possibility this one could be worked out. But if he doesn't trust her, or if he saw the guy and he's like, yeah, she's not telling me the truth, then right now they got to stay apart. They got to stay apart, and he needs to give himself some time. If I was talking to him in a live coaching session, I would ask him, what do you want to do? And what do you want? So I had talked earlier today about the non-communication, the non-violent communication technique, where you observe, then you say your feelings, then you say your needs, and then you make a request. This guy needs to go, look, here's the observation. This is what happened without feelings. She started talking to another guy she had feelings with. Feelings escalated. She did things behind his back and met up with the guy. He's not sure if she slept with him or not, but he thinks there's a good chance. Now, this is where it varies. He knows her character better than I do. Now, how did it make him feel? Obviously angry, upset, scared possibly. What are his needs from this? I need her to stop seeing this guy. I think that's what he's conveying in the story from what he wrote. What would be his request? He already said it's me or the other guy. She couldn't make that decision right away. After 2 days, she decided she can make that decision. Everyone from the outside goes, oh, well, I would just be done. It wouldn't be that cut and dry. I would highly recommend the guy do a live coaching and unpack this a little further. Now, I just got a request from Clutch from The Truth of Love that says he wants to call in and talk about this story a little bit. Let me go through the live stream first. Hold on a sec. Oh, man, that hurts. I'm sorry, dude. It's cheating no matter if she slept with him. Yeah, I guess you could call it emotional cheating. It's up to the individual what they decide is cheating and not cheating. The fact that she lied sent her on her way. MXXM, we lived together as well, but I gave him the breakup he wanted, so I moved out. I felt like I was an option. I took the breakup casually, even though he got cold at the end of the relationship. The casual comment about a potential suitor is a passive-aggressive warning that things need to change. I've been in no contact for 3 weeks now, and it's starting to get harder than I thought. I've been working out to keep myself distracted and trying to detach all at once. I actually had to resign because we worked together. Okay. MXXM. To heal myself mentally, I couldn't do my job. So I took 3 months off. If you have the ability to do that, it's not a bad move. I'm sorry, I lost my place here. Relationship Cal. It's a funny name. Think of Cal Ripken. I would be done. I would be too. The Discord link is in the description of the video. She'll do it again with someone else over time. Where would she have taken it if she didn't get caught? Good point, Jenny. Good point. Like I'm telling you right now, I'm not disagreeing with people, but this is where you tailor advice for individuals, and it's good to talk to someone in a live coaching session. For myself, it with something like this, I would need to ask some more questions and still not make the decision for them, but really unpack it. Because even if they do decide to say they're finished and they leave with a lot of resentment and anger, that doesn't help moving forward either. Ozzy says, make her side chick status. I believe it, Sabrina. The breakup was an excuse. I'm not ready. I can't be the person you want me to be. I'm talking to my ex again as friends. LOL. You got a breakup story you want to share fully, MXXM? If you want to chime in on Skype, like I said, I'll take a story right now. But Mr. Clutch said he wanted to touch base on this story that I just said. So, Clutch, I'm going to see if you're on, and I'm going to give you a call. Oh, just lost my mic there for a moment. Unpack had a 4-month relationship that broke up with me. Had 18 months therapy, much more secure, but still think about it every day. How old are you? Alternative spirituality, if I may ask. Do you want to come on live and talk about it? It's best if you want to join live. If you want to do this live, it's best that you write out your story really quick, maybe even in an email, so I can go through it with you. 50s? All right. Do you want to talk through Skype? Alternative spirituality? Would you want to unpack this in front of the live stream? All right, let's do it here. Clutch is coming through. Here we go. Mr. Clutch.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Is that your final answer? No.
How you doing?
Excellent. So you just heard that story and you said you wanted to chime in on it?
Well, I was going to give you praise, actually, for coming into it and saying, I really don't know what she did or did not do. It's very easy for people to assume everything in those kind of situations. We kind of saw it in the chat where people were like, screw this girl.
Yeah.
Let her go. And it's very easy to do that from the outside. But as we all know, when we're emotionally compromised and we find ourselves in that particular situation, it's always rough. And I feel for that man. I really, really do. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Would you call that, if you don't know if someone's cheated yet, would you call this emotional cheating?
I definitely would call this emotional cheating. I would even go further to say this is borderline physical cheating.
Right.
Mainly because the moment that a relationship skims into that phrase of, I would say, willful ignorance, or
I've
I
never heard that
just
before, but yeah, that sounds
yeah,
fitting.
yeah, or I neglectfully forgot to mention that I'm meeting a potential suitor after I have mentioned repeatedly, how great this person is. Like that aspect is one of the few things I do take from Corey Wayne, that he talks about, where he says, it's particularly as a man, the dynamic is different when it comes to women. But when it comes to being in a man in a relationship, the moment that your girlfriend or wife mentions another man and they mention it in a certain way with high praise, it's not necessarily a giveaway that it's cheating per se, but it's definitely an aspect of it being sort of a passive aggressive nudge saying, hey, we're not on good rocks here. We're not on a good foundation here. You need to smarten up and start addressing some of these issues.
Mm.
The funny part is that most women aren't even consciously aware they're doing it.
That was kind of my
So,
point, is that she doesn't even know that she's building this case of being a physical therapist, or, well, yeah, I want to be a physical therapist. Well, yeah, she's making excuses.
well, it sounds like a convenient truth, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Just like,
same thing.
how about I just go see this guy repetitively, in a very close and intimate setting where, he can tell me all about his life, his career, and I just happen to find him attractive.
Right, right.
So,
I've been in a relationship before. I've talked about it on the live stream before, where an ex-girlfriend a while over 10 years ago started to get a lot of attention at work and mention, and it wasn't the same exact case, because it was one of those things that I'd never dealt with before, because it was a new office environment, which happens a lot,
mhm.
right? It's
Oh yeah, oh yeah, it
especially
definitely does.
when I talk to people, I'm like, it doesn't make you feel better, but it's very human and common if someone changes their work environment, that they can have a crush, or be attracted to someone at work. And so that's what I always think to myself when people get into emotional cheating. I'm like, it's like, I've worked at a lot of different places when I was in my 20s and stuff, and I've had crushes when I've had a girlfriend. It's different when you act on it, or you go out to dinner with them or something like that on the side, or have emoji text. But what's the line on emotional cheating? I thought it was, when I first heard it as a term, I thought to myself, what's the line? I think the line's made by the couple. Someone that thinks you emotionally cheated on me, because you thought of someone. Because I had a guy that I knew, had a lot of respect for him, a really well-read, very intelligent individual, and he had found the one, he had been manifesting this woman. He was really into that stuff and stuff like that, and I was happy for him. Really, guy with really good judgment and all that, but he was like, I think I'll tell her if I emotionally cheat even. And I thought to myself, what do you mean? Like, if you have thoughts about another woman? And he's like, yeah, I would even tell her that I'm having uncomfortable thoughts about another woman. And I was thinking to myself, do you want to do that?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because I did have a video dedicated to this. I think it was about 5 months ago because this was a rather hot topic. What is the line with emotional cheating? And you're correct. It's not a strict specific point. It does change from couple to couple.
Mm.
Um, but there's the other aspect of, well, there's a big difference between emotional cheating and sexual tension,
Ah,
because sexual tension is something that's never going to go away. You are going to have, if you're an attractive person, active, like assuming you're not, 500 pounds or 90 years old, you're going to have sexual tension with someone of the opposite sex, especially if you're in a work environment with
yep.
them. The difference is that, what I find defines emotional cheating, at least the rule of thumb I tend to follow, is, would you be willing to tell this story to your spouse without feeling a sense of shame or embarrassment? And if there's a sense of shame, particularly, what does that tell you about that interaction?
Mm. That's a good point, because shame's such a um, low on the totem pole emotion that leads to worse. Right. I
Hmm.
mean, if you're carrying shame, it's gonna get worse from that. And people handle shame in two different ways. They can be crushed by it, or they can get highly defensive with it. right? They
Yes,
don't want to show
exactly.
it, which would be the worst situation. They could, instead of crying, someone could literally be in tears about it, or they could also go the other direction and be defensive about it. And that's a good point. Sexual attention would be different. I haven't heard that as a counterpoint to it. Because to me, when I first heard that, I thought to myself, I thought to myself, I've been in work environments where I've had someone I'm attracted to and, dare I say, lightly flirt with, but innocently, nothing there.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't go as far as it saying it was sexual attention, which is different. And so, but saying that, within different couples, people are offended by different behavior. You know, so one girlfriend or wife could think something was playful and fun, and another one could go, no, you cannot do that or have that. So I guess what you're saying, though, is you should share it if you feel like it's shameful or you feel like you're doing something to cross the line.
Well, it all has to do with the dynamics of the relationship, right? Like you and I touched briefly on it with attachment, and I think you wanted to continue that conversation last time, but we kind of ran out of time, which is attachment changes over time, and specifically it changes in environmental settings. So if you're with someone who's secure, for example, someone who's secure isn't necessarily going to get very jealous of certain aspects. Like there's a friendly level or a healthy level of jealousy. Like I know the girl I'm dating right now, my phone constantly goes off because I tend to have more female friends than male friends. That's just naturally what happens. And she'll constantly see my phone and she'll be like, oh, so-and-so is texting you again. I'm like, yeah, I'm a popular guy. And I sort of just brush it off. Like nothing's actually happening. But the element of jealousy it's a healthy dynamic. It's almost a form of flirtation. Where it starts getting toxic and where it starts getting into emotional cheating has more to do with the aspect of, can you say with a clear face your partner and say, I personally commented on this girl's ass, or I personally said this to this girl. Like that's where we kind of have to draw the line and say, this is where we have to kind of stop. And it's okay to like build that sexual tension. Like I said, we're animals, human beings, we're built for it, but we also have the ability of becoming psychologically aware of our environment, and more importantly, psychologically aware of consequence. So we can't always act like animals in the wild kingdom. We have to have a level of responsibility.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. I like though that you felt the same way on that story. That, like I said, it's easy as a spectator to go, oh yeah, I'd be done. It's like if you talk to someone in a live coaching session, because you do live coaching also, it's a totally different dynamic when you can unpack it a little further. Well, let's talk about this, because to me, just telling you, and I've had other people come to me that when I do live coaching, they'll tell me they talk to other people that even are coaches, and they'll just tell them what to do. And some people like that, but then they feel like I wanted something more, and what they want is to talk about it more. They don't want to just be told what to do a lot of times, because it's not that easy a decision. It's not that cut and dry to just go, I'm done with you.
Yeah, well, it's one aspect of some people want to be told what to do, and other cases where people want to be reinforced on what they're doing. So a lot of times, in this particular situation, look, I can speak from my personal experience. I wouldn't be the person that would stay in that situation, but that's my decision. That's based on my background. It's based on my case history, and it's based on my relationship. Like you had mentioned previously, this guy knows this girl more than anyone else.
Yep.
So maybe there's some aspects there that we're not consciously aware of. But there's another aspect, which is human beings have a tendency to look for that reinforcement bias, where we try to surround ourselves with like-minded people, and if we're not careful, what we'll find ourselves in an echo chamber where people just tell us what we want to hear rather than what we need to hear.
Yep. Yeah, this would be one of those situations where you'd ask. I would personally ask more questions than just say do this, this, and this, because the ideal situation is for someone to come to the conclusion on their own by answering questions that reveal a little bit more to themselves, because a lot of times I don't want to just leave, but you have to get a little deeper, right? It's like, otherwise, if you go very surface on this and just go, hey, you got to get out of this, she disrespected you, then you're more likely to go, well, that's not what I want to do, and resist it and cause more turbulence than unpacking it a little deeper. But yeah, it's, you know, from the outside in, I'd be like, oh, I wouldn't be with her either. But the part that everyone misses is like, if you were together and you're, you know, it wouldn't be that easy, especially 2 days later when you've both been hurting and she's like, okay, I'll do what you said. I agree. I would still be out. I haven't been in that individual situation though before, you know, like I haven't been in that exact one. And that's exactly what I meant, Clutches, when I said, you know her better than I do in order to give. And that's where I would say on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your trust overall, even before this happened? You know, you have to really, because the trust thing, even if you get back for a night of passion and makeup sex or whatever, you know, the trust is still not going to be there the next day, right? It's like you're just going to start checking the phone more often and stuff like that, and that's not fun.
Well, that level of trust, in order for that to be broken, like the fact that she did what she did, in and itself can be a dumpable offense in many cases, and rightfully so. But it's not even the dynamics of whether or not she did something that ends up being the issue. And this, I like how you phrase, you know, a lot of people have to talk it out and a lot of people have to sit down with coaching. And I do recommend that this person sit down with you or sit down with someone and talk about this, mainly because you hit the nail on the head, which is that they have to come to that conclusion themselves. And oftentimes, and I know you do this with your stories where you have people write stories out, what I tend to do is I tend to be more applied in my approach, where people will sit down with me and I'll take notes in the background. And I usually have to apologize to people because I'm the world's loudest typer. Don't know why, but I just happen to be. And I'll usually reread everything that they told me.
Okay.
Like word for word back to them. And they're just shocked with what they said. I'm like, well, you said this was a deal breaker. Like, no, I didn't. I'm like, oh, yes, I did. And I'll pull up my notes and be like, this is what you said, word for word. And of course, it's interesting getting that third party perspective on your internal situation. Like you brought up the whole cam aspect with that nanny show.
Yeah.
I usually get people to retell their story using different names. So take your situation and put another name to it and tell me what you think about it. And most of the time they give themselves the same advice I'd give them. But it's funny to get that dynamic going and to get that process flow going.
What's harder to limit emotion, right? It's like, that's the advantage I have. I can be objective. It's much harder when someone asks me for advice that's a friend or family member. I've had it. It's much harder. I have more feelings in the game. It's like, it's, you know, I do give advice to friends and family, and they do ask me, and they have situations, but I can feel it being a little different. Because
well, the question is, do they actually listen to you versus a paying client?
Well, here's
as soon as you go ahead.
Well, a few of my friends that were not best friends type thing, I said, you're gonna have to pay me. So then we have to worry about that. Someone, and they go like, no problem. And I go, then we can just talk about that, and you don't have to feel guilty. And I can put my cap on, and we can make it that way. But if it's a really close friend, like a close friend that I've known for 20 years, or you're a relative, it's more difficult. It's more difficult.
Well, I find that when people make that financial investment, and I've been in situations where in extreme cases, I have given people advice for free. Like if I feel
me too.
You know, the element is that I find that the people that are most critical of the advice I give are the ones that have had it for free.
Yes. Well, no.
It's just. Well, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interject, but I was going to say early on when I first started my channel, I did it. I don't want to say a lot, but I did it more often, right? And they would miss appointments when it was like, they would be like, oh, I forgot about it when we were supposed to talk to free, or they're more pushy. Like, well, I just want to know how to. I just don't want to know how to. They don't want to take any advice or really talk about it. They're kind of. I can sense that, and that's why one of those reasons I didn't get into Instagram really quick. People send me messages, hey, man, what are you doing? I got something for you. It's like, okay, you know what I mean? And then you're like, go to the website, send your story in. It's a reasonable thing, you know? It's like, well, I just want to send you my story right now and get your take. I got a few questions. Okay. It's like, no.
I'm not sure if have you ever read economic theory? because economic theory talks about this. It's called the paradox of value. It
Mm,
was first termed by Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations.
mm,
But essentially, what it talks about is it takes the narrative of diamonds versus water. People are willing to pay more money for diamonds and have a higher value associated diamonds because of their financial, um, I guess you could say, costs. But then you have water, which can be found, at least in those times, relatively cheap and sort of just brushed off like being non essential. Yet only one of these elements is a necessity for life.
good point.
Yeah.
But it's
So
abundant.
go ahead. Go ahead.
But it's abundant, right?
Well, at least back then it was abundant. Now I think more wars are being fought over water than diamonds. But
Well, yeah,
it's funny how that narrative changes, right?
yeah. Well, I mean, have you ever thought this is kind of random, but I don't know how Chile is, but in Thailand, Thailand's beautiful country and everything, but you'll see some places where you have chickens running around and
Oh
roosters,
yeah.
and I've always thought of this. I'm going somewhere with this, but the rooster, sometimes it's a beautiful animal, like a rooster that's got all the colors and everything. You know what I mean? But everyone just goes, it's a chicken. It's just it's a dumb animal. It's like
I'm sure there's a good cock joke in there somewhere.
Right? No, I wasn't going anywhere with that. No, but
Go ahead.
no,
Go ahead.
no, I wasn't
I'm
going
just
anywhere.
being
But
immature.
sometimes I'm like, wow, what a beautiful rooster, like the colors and everything like that. Now, like a pheasant or another bird that's a little bit more rare, people are like, oh my God, that's a pheasant. But it's just that the reality is that chickens are everywhere, so they're not that special, and they're not that expensive, and they just don't hold the same value because they're so abundant. But yeah, I've said that there was a guy that reviewed a Corey. He called Corey Wayne on a live coaching call. It was like a YouTube video review, and he was in his truck, and he was like, "I called up Corey Wayne yesterday, man. Greatest experience I've ever had." And he's like, "Paid $1,000." And he goes, "First thing first, he was right on time." And I was like,
I would hope so.
I was thinking to myself, okay, but he was all in, right? I mean, anything that Corey Wayne told him for $1,000 he was gonna do it, right? Because he paid $1,000. He put his money up, like, so it's one of those things. I know what you mean by that. What I tend to do is if I do a live coaching session, if we go over an hour or something like that, I'm okay with that. But like, yeah, I've definitely found that to be true. You value what you have to pay for, you put money into, and you have to make an appointment and things like that. That's just how it works. So
Well, the other aspect as well is that, and this goes for relationships too, the value that you put into something has to do with the time and money invested. So if you're in a 5 year relationship, you're going to have a higher value in that than you would if someone you just met off the street that you might have a
mm,
very deep and emotional connection with. And a
I
lot of people like to think that their particular experience is unique. Like the number one thing I hear in every single coaching session is, "Oh, you haven't heard a story like mine."
yeah.
Maybe, but most of the time, yeah, I've heard worse actually. Like as far as the discard and the circumstance you're dealing with. Not taking away from the actual circumstance.
Yeah.
You're dealing with a traumatic situation. I'm here for you. I'm here to
Hmm.
give you guidance. Not here to give you all the solutions or all the answers. But the idea is, the rule I tend to follow is I think back to my breakups because I've had many breakups in my life, and a lot of them have affected me in a very dark way. What would I have wanted to have been told in that circumstance with the reflection of hindsight? And of course, taking that example moving forward, and because I've dated someone across the spectrum when it comes to attachment, I have a good foundation to choose from. So usually when someone approaches me saying, "Oh, I was with someone who's really anxious," I'm like, I'll think back to my anxious relationship. I'm like, yeah, I remember when that was. Or when someone is avoidant, yeah, I can remember when that was. It doesn't mean that we all fit this narrative or all fit this cookie cutter type scenario where one solution is across the board and it's a blanket statement. But it's more along the lines of, you take an example such as this gentleman regarding his girlfriend lying about who she was seeing and who she was speaking to. And you start realizing that it's not necessarily whether she did something right or wrong that becomes the issue. It's rebuilding that trust. And that's going to take months, if not years, of consistency in order to repair that kind of damage. That's where I saw that story going. I'm not sure about your case
Mm-hmm.
or your perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that would be the biggest obstacle if he's going to consider getting back together with her. And you, that being said, though, an individual can go, yeah, I'm up for it. I'm in for it. And then a week later, when she leaves the dishes in the sink and is in a crabby mood, right? It'll bubble up.
We've all been in those situations.
Right? It's like, and you
dishes.
fucking sent the emoji text to him. And, you had, and I went, it's like, and she's like, I thought you let this go. It's only been a week. And it's like, that's the thing. You know what I mean? There's, our brains have like, I call it like a domino effect. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're in a you got you got mad at me. Oh, you got this. Well, what about what you did? Everyone's holding out like ammo. And I think that's what happens when people are in these marriages. The amount of people that I've talked to that have been in marriages where they stopped sleeping in the same room, or they just stopped you know what I mean? And they were married another 5 years, 6 years, 7 years. Here's what's really interesting though. They were married. I've had multiple people that were married, let's just say 10 years plus, which is a pretty good run. That's an achievement now in relationship world. 10 years plus, they're married.
What
50.
does that say about our society as a whole, right?
But it's true, right? It's true.
It is.
It's like I'm saying. I tell someone, I'm like, that's a pretty good achievement, and they'll be like, for most of the relationship, it was good, but at the end, especially if it was over like 15 years. Like one guy was telling me he was married for 15 years, and he's like, it's pretty good. We had 2 kids, but he goes, for 11 years we were in separate rooms, but they still had intimacy. I'm like, geez. And he didn't like it. He was like, well, we get hotels when we go to different vacations. We had separate rooms and this and that. But here's an interesting caveat to this. These long marriages, I've come across this numerous times. When they're done, they'll be like, well, they didn't come to me for the marriage. They came for me for the first relationship after that marriage. Because that first relationship after that marriage, the intimacy was fucking outstanding. It was honeymoon phase type stuff. It was so wonderful. It was so great. And then they broke up within 3 months to 6 months to a year, and they're spun because they're like, what? And then I'll go, so what happened to your marriage? Oh, my marriage was done years ago. Me and my wife are still friends.
I've definitely run into that too.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I usually find, yeah, I do. What I find is that people that tend to do that tend to be, or at least previous to marriage, have been caught in the serial monogamous cycle where they just constantly had someone there. And of course, you find a marriage, and if you marry someone who's relatively secure, although not always, but let's say they're relatively secure, you can let certain things slide. Like, for example, lack of intimacy. I've seen many couples, and like in your case, where they spend years sleeping in different bedrooms, and yet the intimacy is not quite there, but they stick together for the family. And I've even seen some extreme scenarios where people have flat out separated and continue to live under the same roof for the sake of the children, and then fallen in love with each other again and started that relation again, and actually hit the same problems the second time around as they did the first time. It's an element that human beings are a product of their environment. So we oftentimes we like to think ourselves as very special people, and not to take away from the uniqueness of every person out there. But if you take people in a similar environment and put them into chaos or put them into a stressful situation, most people over time, it's like twisting a zip tie. You can twist it further and further and have it tighter and tighter, but eventually it's going to snap. And that snap, or that feedback, what most people will deal with, especially when it comes to like things like a rebound relationship, like you mentioned, is usually a consequence or a symptom of the over resulting relationship and the lack of individuality. So if I'm in a relationship that I've just, quote, settled in, and I have decided to stick this relationship through until the kids are 18, which is more common than people think, and you break up with that spouse, and there's no harsh feelings, you stuck together for the kids, whatever, and then you start dating someone new, and then you're feeling this rush of emotion that you haven't felt in well over 2 decades. it becomes a rather foreign attitude, and it sort of regresses the people to being back kind of like how they were when they were teenagers. So you have these 40-year-old men and these 35-year-old women, I'm overgeneralizing, that you talk to them and they sound like teenagers. They sound like high school gossip. It's actually funny to see, but it's kind of empathetic to understand why they're in that position and how they find themselves there.
Absolutely. Oh, I'm saying it empathetically. I'm saying it. I find that one of the reasons I think that happens is if you've been in a long-term relationship, even if it didn't work out, and a lot of times it was more good than bad because they lasted that long and they stuck it out and they let's say they did their best, which is the best case scenario, and that's why they stuck it out, or for the kids or whatnot, which is admirable and noble to stick it out for the kids. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, that's a choice, but that's putting your kids first, and maybe financially that's what you want to do. So I don't look at it like, oh, it's so horrible. But then when you get into the new relationship and you have someone that bails quickly, it's like, hey, wait a minute. That's not how relationships are. And it's like, it's just that you haven't had that many relationships. So you were with someone, like you said, that was secure or willing to stick it out through thick and thin, and then something comes up and they bail, and you're like, what? Wait. Did I do something wrong? I did something really wrong. It's like, no, you didn't do something really wrong. This person's a little damaged, or this person, isn't secure enough to stay in a long-term relationship. There's so many variables. And so that's what I come across a lot with that, and I think it's a growing problem because a lot of people get divorced later on, and when they re-enter the relationship market, it's tough because they're re-entering a place that's a little foreign, and then when they get someone that they're very attracted to and they're very into, they think it'll be another 20 years or 15 years, which would be best case scenario, but relationships are changing these days. They really are, man. I mean,
I don't know what your experience is. In my 20s, I spent the majority of my 20s single. And I'm sure, well, you're a little bit older than I am, but the concept is, I remember the aspect of dating meant going out every weekend and meeting people at a bar or meeting people at a club. Tinder and all these dating apps have completely changed that dynamic to the point where I'm noticing with the new generation, I sound like an old man, oh, these young kids, but the new generation have this really deep entrenched sense of instant gratification and entitlement that I have never seen in any generation I've dealt with previously. And it's not to say that it's a character flaw, but when you're dealing with things like relationships, for example, the majority of people tend to be extremely avoidant when it comes to the attachment aspects of relationships. It's the aspect of, oh, that relationship didn't work, no big deal, find a new one and move forward. And it becomes this cycle of finding people. And depending on who you talk to, men or women, men have this concept that women can find dates really easily, which is kind of true when it comes to things like Tinder. Women have no issues finding matches, but where women struggle is they struggle finding that emotional security and that emotional connection. Where men struggle is once they've built that connection, it's very easy to stay. But women struggle in the opposite effect, where in order to find that emotional connection, that's the hard part. So you have a lot of these red pill, black pill men who say, oh, women have their choice of the flock. Well, put yourself in that position. Imagine being in a position where you're a single, attractive female. You get conservatively 20 to 50 matches a day. All of them are messaging you at once, and it doesn't stop. And all of a sudden you have an abundance of choice, which, most of these men, if they're very good at what they do, they know what to say, they know how to charm. How can you tell the good apples from the bad apples? And how do I know how to invest my time and energy? It becomes exhausting. It becomes absolutely exhausting. One of my best friends in LA, she spent about 3 years in LA before I moved over. And one of the things that she used to do is she used to go on 2 or 3 dates a day just with random people she met on dating apps. And that's just the mentality that we live in now.
Really?
It's this, yeah, it's an instant abundance. And
well, LA would be a hotbed for going on multiple dates, probably more than some other places, I suppose. 2 to 3 dates. What was her objective?
To find someone to build a connection with. It was a numbers game for her. So she said, I will try dating a person once, I'll give everyone a chance, but if I don't feel a click, move on to the next one.
Mm.
And and that's fairly common now. So what you have is you have a lot of these divorcees, specifically divorcee men who are in their late 30s, early 40s, and they tend to date women that are younger who are into this instant gratification aspect of things. And then, of course, we run into a conflict where one of them is used to having to work through the problems, and the other is used to just jumping back into the dating pool and starting anew again.
Mm. Wow, 3 dates a day. 3 dates a day. Wow.
Yeah, for 3 years.
So she
She
obviously
was
was picky.
she's well. I have no comment on that specific. She's still my friend, but I told her you should never do that again. That sounds mentally and emotionally draining.
Well,
But
I
go ahead.
think what would happen if you had that many options and you were going through that many people, correct me if I'm wrong, and you're not allowing someone to grow on you, because you can get a first impression or even a second impression of someone that you're attracted to, and they could do something that you're not sure if you like them as much as you thought, or this or that, or but if you're going through that many tries and not tries, it's a pretty um, it's a pretty there's not a lot of room for error for someone that dates her. It's like,
Well, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. She was fearful. So
it's like
anything would trigger her. Like
yeah, that
any kind of criticism, any kind of
yeah,
bad interaction. Yeah, it was like constantly walking on eggshells with
yeah,
that one. At least when it came to dating.
yeah. I mean, yeah, she's gonna end up going out with some guys that could be good for her, that she's just, oh well, he did this or he did that. I don't know. That's tough. That would be tough.
But
But
without giving too much personal information, she has a tendency to get caught in codependent relationships for that reason. Because all of a sudden, she dates someone who's willing and pushing to satisfy every aspect of her, all these demands. And of course, once she's so far in, it's very hard for her to let go, because she's like, oh, I found the perfect man, I can't leave him. And of course, the red flags start coming out over time. Because like most codependent relationships, they start off perfectly. Like
what do you mean
you
by
don't.
codependent? What's your example of what you're in what way codependent?
I
I'm familiar
follow
with
the
the term, but I
principles.
just want to know what you mean by it.
Yeah, I follow the principles of Richard Grannon when it comes to codependency, which is codependency is me giving all of myself to you, every aspect without
So
compromise.
I'm sorry, she would be the one that would give all herself, or someone would give all themselves to her?
Someone would give all of themselves to her.
Okay, that makes
So
sense why she wants to go 3 a day.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. So the result is when someone would stick, the reason they would stick is because they're highly codependent. And of course, codependency, like there's two aspects to the codependency. There's someone that gives and someone that receives. And someone that's receiving is just as guilty as the person that's constantly giving. But there's an aspect of you being able to become self-aware. But of course, if you've never had consequence, if you've never had someone stand up to you, because of course they're always satisfying your needs, how could you be self-aware? And what happens usually is that people like this later on in life, when they go through a divorce or a separation, they usually are dealt that blow, that trauma for the first time, like in their lives, and they're forced to mature very, very quickly. And
mhm.
that's where a lot of those intense aspects of CPTSD start coming out. And people tend to be very anxious driven. They tend to get panic attacks. They tend to internalize the breakup really, really deeply, because what they're dealing with is they're dealing with something that has been so suppressed that they haven't been able to deal with it or wanting to deal with it until they're forced to.
Mm. I want to take a comment from the live stream really quick, but we could both
Sure.
touch on this. From the fabulous Jen. Jen, how you doing, hun? I disagree with the concept that women have more choices. And Jen, someone I've done coaching with and I know very well, and she's told me this
Mm-hmm.
before. I disagree with the concept that women have more choices than men. It might be my age group, but I'm a very attractive woman in my 50s, and I can tell you that I don't have that many options. Now, I have a perspective on that, but I'll let you answer that first.
Sure, and it's not to say that this anything that we're saying is a blanket statement. This is one perspective, or in this case, two perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
But what I find is that there's a misperception of how things like dating apps work. So, for example, if I talk to a woman and she's fairly attractive, or even if she's okay, relatively speaking, The main question I would ask is, how many matches do you get in a given day? And I've
Okay.
heard a range of anywhere from 5 to 50 in a given day. Ask a man how often he gets a match on a dating app. And on average, I would say 1 to 5 a week. So there's a very large discrepancy there.
All right, hold on. Let me just interject one moment. I'm listening though. Sorry, Jen. Do you want to just put in the comments, if you still are using a dating app, what was your question again? You'd ask. What did you say? I'm sorry, Clutch. That you'd ask how many matches they're getting a day.
How many matches you would get in a given day.
Okay, Jen. Just put that in the side notes if you don't mind answering that. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's okay. It's okay. And you talk to men, and their average is 1 to 5 matches a week. So there's a large discrepancy there to begin with. But there's pros and cons to that. Having the large diversity of selection does provide the ability to go into every profile and be a little more selective. But you can only show so much with a dating profile. You don't get to know the person's securities. You don't get to know their personality. You only get to know what they're projecting, or their representation, as Chris Rock has mentioned, which is, when you first start dating someone, you're not meeting them, you're meeting their representative. And of course, over time, they will start showing you their true side. And that's where women do struggle, where they can have, in the extreme case, as my friend in LA, 3 dates a day, but building that emotional connection and having that vulnerability, that's where it gets hard for women. Versus men, if I get a date with a woman, I might like her or not like her. Yeah, I might or might not, but it's not going to be as hard for me to build that emotional connection with someone once I've gotten past that initial dynamic, when I've gotten past that initial interaction between matching on a dating profile, organizing a date, going out, having a good time. I'm much more open to that concept.
Well,
at least that's my interpretation.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think there's some truth to that. Yeah. The other part of it is, I think that if you have some bad experiences on a dating app, such as a bad date, or 4 or 5 matches that went bad in a row, right? You could get, and I'm not saying this about you, Jen. You could get sour on it and then just assume everything's bad, right? And that's the time. And I've had other clients do this where they're like, "I'm just going to take a break from dating apps," and I go, "Do it." Take a breather, because then you get a bad. Even when I used to sell shoes when I was in my early 20s, when I was in college, and you'd get 6 customers that you'd show them everything and they wouldn't buy anything, and waste your time, or you get one really bad cut. It's hard to go to the next one. It's hard because you're just assuming it's going to be the same thing. And so sometimes you just need to take a break from it, regroup, get back on there, and then get rid of that maybe bad attitude that all dating apps suck or whatnot. Because it is one of those things, what you just said, I don't know, like when you said in your 20s, that's how it was. I had a girlfriend most of the time in my 20s, but I know what you mean about that's where people would go. But my experience, I would always meet a future girlfriend at work or through common friends or someplace that was of common interest, not from a bar. But doesn't mean I haven't gone to them before. But now I would say, yeah. But now I would say, I mean, where we're at in 2021, dating apps, I mean, it is what it is. You know what I mean? That's where it's going to be headed. Just like someone says, not to get off topic, what we're talking about, someone goes, "They broke up with me on text." Well, is that how you communicate 90% of the time? It doesn't mean it's right. It just means that that's how people are used to communicating now. And that's why it happens more often than ever before. But the same with the dating apps. But here's one of the things, and I think I've told Jen this before, that's overlooked. The area that you live in, if you live, let's say you live in a suburb, and a lot of couples are married in suburbs, it's going to be tougher. There's certain areas that have more singles. There's certain areas that have, you know what I'm saying by that? And it gets overlooked. It gets overlooked because your options are smaller based on what your environment provides. And there's so many people now that come to me and are having a relationship where they've been with someone for a year and they've seen them once online. I mean, that to me, I'm like, excuse me?
Well, there's
excuse me?
Yeah, there's a couple of points there because I do like what you brought up about geographic setting, because that's definitely a big impact environment, especially where you live. I know that in Ottawa, where I used to live in Canada, believe it or not, Ottawa was voted the highest rated city for adultery by AshleyMadison.com. So you wouldn't think,
Okay.
and the reason for this they found, because they did some psychological studies, is that Ottawa is mainly a government town. It's the capital of Canada.
Uh-huh.
And when you take away the financial stress of a situation such as job security, because like people in the government tend to be employed for life, the next thing that people tend to do is they tend to cheat. Now, does this mean every government worker does this? No, but it definitely skews the odds in that favor. And I'm seeing what Jen wrote here, where she had mentioned that the percentage of avoidant men on dating apps is astronomical on plus 40. I completely agree with you, Jen. And this is the reason I agree with you. And this is going to be my second point.
Okay.
Dating apps, much like all social media, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, Mac, but I quit Facebook. I quit even Instagram this past year, and I've been completely off of social media with the exception of YouTube, which I use to post my videos. And the reason I did this was because I ended up watching The Social Dilemma, and I started understanding and remembering all the aspects of what social media is meant to do. And it's meant to keep us engaged, because the longer time we spent engaged, the more likely we are to generate ad revenue. The aspect of a dating app is no different. The aspect is that the dating app's algorithm is looking at what men tend to get swiped right the most by women. So what ends up happening is that the men that keep appearing on the feed are the same kind of men that always get swiped right. And this is a double-edged sword when it comes to Jen, because when people are in their plus 40s, most secure people are already in long-term relationships, and secure people don't tend to leave relationship as thoroughly as someone who's, let's say, avoidant. And the other aspect is that the algorithm of the app is encouraging people to swipe right on the same people. Well, who swipes right on the same person recurrently? The people that are constantly on the app, the people that haven't built a solid, secure relationship. So what you have is you have a double-edged whammy, where the people that are still in the market are the ones that tend to be more on the avoidance side of things, but also the men that are most popular on these apps. And the ones that tend to be most popular are the ones that tend to fit that lifestyle of the single bachelor that is constantly going on dates over and over and over. And this is the downside with both men and women. In order to find a match, you first have to go through that pile of people that everyone has swiped right on. These are the people that have had a wide variety of selection. And of course, us as men anyways, this is a case where like the average man takes about 3 to 4 months of being on a dating app before we find someone we can match with that's legitimate. And a woman can have, anywhere between 5 and 50 matches a day.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say if Jen, this is more of a direct question to tackle, what would you say if Jen's saying, I don't want to use the dating apps anymore because I'm over it, and the 40% of avoidant men is astronomical. So she's, what would you say the alternative is?
Well, you can always have an alternative. Obviously, during COVID, there's some limitations in play. Like one of the big things I did in LA following my breakup was I would go to meetup.com events. And I would just go to social events and just get to know new people, regardless of whether or not I was interested in the activity or not. You can do small things like that. But I'm still in the base camp where I view dating apps as a necessary evil. Where, you have to go through all these superficial people and all these fake people, and you have to filter through these experiences. But the only way you're actually going to win the race is by subjecting yourself, by being vulnerable to that potential experience. Does that mean that it's always going to be perfect? No, but you're not going to get any further if you don't do anything. So the choice is yours, Jen. If you want to stick off dating apps, you can. But by doing so, you're completely avoiding or excluding a certain aspect of the market that you more than likely will find a match with eventually. It might take some time, but you will find that match.
I tell clients it's like sifting for gold, right? Or panning for gold. You got to go through for the little flakes in between. But
yes.
There was a client a couple of days ago that said, I'm going to get back on the dating apps. He had been in no contact for a month and a half or something like that. Do you think it's a good idea? This, that, and the other. I go, get in there, Maverick. Re-engage.
Never leave me wingman.
Yeah. We could have had him, man. We could have had him.
Hey, I make the calls, okay?
He knew it right when I said it too. He's like, all right, Goose. I said,
Yeah.
but
I'm not sure. I'm not sure he wants to be. He wants you to be Goose. I don't know if
no.
he's ever watched them.
Yeah. So it's funny because I'm like, get back in there. You got to re-engage, Maverick. And he got it in the text message. And my point was, you got to get back in there at some point. But I kind of flashed back to a client I had before that was he was one of those. He was low on confidence. He wasn't happy with his appearance. He wanted to lose some weight, but he was all in. It was like he was in his late 40s. He had a divorce, and he came to me originally about a breakup, but then he said, "Can you help me through dating?" And I was like, "I'm not necessarily a dating coach, but yeah, let's talk about your dates afterwards and review things and go along the way." And I don't consider myself like the pickup artist or anything like that, but we can talk about dates for sure. And it was great because he would meet someone he liked. He would talk to him. He's very good with texting, very comfortable with that. He had a good sense of humor. And, the first case was he fell for someone right away that just texted him, for hours at a time for a couple of weeks, and it didn't work out. She ended up saying, "You know what, I don't have that high an interest." And he was crushed for a moment, rejected. But then he kept up, and he read, a couple books that I recommended, like Models by Mark Manson, and a couple, some things to brush up on attraction. And he really read them, like for, how to deal with it. And then the next woman he went out with, he liked her, and I think they made out, and they did some other things. And then she ended up kind of bailing on him for, I'm just not that interested, and he was kind of crushed again, but he stuck with it. And then this was ironic. And I was telling this story to the client today. The next woman he went out with, she was really nice, and somehow she was wounded in some way, and she was insecure, and he was unattracted to her, and she liked him more. So he had to let her off. And I said, well, now you know what it feels like. You're going to have to be honest with her, right? Like, he was like, man, she's just so nice, but it's just not there. And I'm like, well, maybe this is what the other two women felt about you when they told you. And it was like, you know what I mean? He got to experience the other side of it. And then he met another woman, really into her. They talked for weeks. He was very good at, like I said, the 2 hours or 3 hours of texting. And they met up. And we've never connected like this before in my life. She rejected him. Too nice. He was classic, too very, very nice guy. But he took a break from dating after that, dating apps, and he was upset. And he chose to be friends with the woman still because they never really got intimate. The woman's like, look, I'd like to stay friends, this and that. And I go, look, if you want to stay friends, you can stay friends. I know every channel says you're being weak and you're being a beta or whatever. Men can be friends with women. That's a choice. And if you feel like you guys haven't had intimacy and you could be a friend with her without a covert contract, that's fine. She ended up hooking him up 2 months later with one of her friends, and that ended up being his girlfriend. It's like, so sometimes you don't know what a bad date or a bad relationship by hanging in there and going out with. That's why I tell people to go on bad dates instead of look for good ones, because it's practice, and it might lead to something. It might lead to something like that. Now, that's not something that's going to happen all the time, right? But that was him being proactive, making some good decisions. And in that particular case, it wasn't weak for him to stay friends because their relationship was very friendly. They never had gotten intimate. They had this very good banter, and she just wasn't attracted to him in that way. And then she ends up introducing him to one of her good friends, and they ended up being together in a serious relationship. So it was one of those twists that you wouldn't normally see. But he had 3 bad situations on dating apps, and he was hurt. He was hurt, but he stuck with it, and that's what I think it has to be. That's what that's what it's going to be. I think we get caught up in the idea that Hollywood, the amount of Hollywood movies and TV shows where people just meet someone. I mean, it's not realistic, right?
It takes time.
But I mean, movies, if anyone watches TV regularly, and I don't watch a lot of TV now, but any series where someone gets out of a breakup, They end up meeting someone that they sleep with that's pretty attractive, pretty immediate, a lot of times, and you're just like, oh wow, they didn't even go through a breakup phase, you know. The neighbor next door just happened to be single and attracted to them. It just
I
happens.
find that I find that when it comes to dating, the frame that you project is usually what's most comfortable. So if it's a case where you're making a big deal on, let's say, the second or third date, and everything has to be perfect, and my friend from LA also fell in this category, the more likely it is to fall on your face. You have to be confident, but naturally progressive. Like, don't try to force things. And
Mm,
you're right. Hollywood has this big emphasis on, somehow man meets woman and she falls for him, sort of like a Stockholm type scenario where, oh, you're the only one for me. How could I have never have seen it up to this point? Natural attraction doesn't work like that, at least not in a secure relationship. Like, if you're dealing with a dependent relationship or a codependent relationship, yeah, attraction builds really, really quickly, but you're left with this constant wave of high traction and low traction that can remain consistent for months, if not years. And of course, people that get out of that relationship don't realize they were in a toxic setting until they meet someone who's a little more secure, and naturally give it time and progressively look back on it and say, oh wow, that relationship was completely insane. I didn't realize it at the time,
hmm
but with enough time and space, I start to see what the natural progression is. And going back to your comment on being friends with people you've dated, if there's no emotional requirement, like if you don't feel snubbed or judged on being friends with someone, it's perfectly okay to be friends with
hmm
someone of the opposite sex. I've
hmm
become friends with many people I've dated.
hmm
In one case, one long-term relationship I was in, we ended mutually, and we're still friends.
hmm
It's just a question of how you want to portray it moving forward, and most importantly, whether or not it's fair to the frame that you want to project. If this person's ending terms with you when you don't want to end them, when you say, no, I believe there's something here,
hmm
that's where you have to walk away and not show the friend card. But if it's a case where both of you mutually accept, hey, this is just not going to work out, all power to you. Make more friends. It's always better to have more friends than to have
hmm
more enemies. That's my philosophy.
and just be honest with yourself. You have to be honest. Like, is this a covert contract to get them back or get in their good grace, or am I able just to be really good friends, or just a friend? And for him, I could tell he could do that, and so that's why I said that's fine. Don't think that you're being weak, or if you take a few steps back, and it ended up working out for him in a way that was unexpected. But he was just your classic case where he was one of those. What's underrated too is when someone starts from zero and they're in a really bad, they don't know where to start because they just started dating again. They've been in a long relationship, and they have issues with feeling maybe not the most attractive. I'm like, well, start with getting a haircut every 2 weeks. Start with talking to one of your friends on fashion that you respect. Do little things that you didn't pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to before. That's not totally out of your character, but you're making an effort. Because people that look good, or like friends or family members that I have, they put work into it. People that they don't just like wait, like people that are really into their looks and someone's like, oh, they're an attractive person. They usually aren't just born that way. They believe themselves to be good looking, but they do small things that are involve effort and the idea that, you know, I work on this. People that feel like I'm really unattractive tend to let things go, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I said readdress some of these areas, and it's the simple one is to go to the gym, right? Everyone's going to suggest that, and people get sick of that. And then I'm like, it's the simplest one, but you can do a lot of small things that add up, and he did them, and it was like it was really nice to see. It was really good to see because he wasn't a victim, and he easily could have
Mm-hmm.
been. Easily could have been. Easily could have been.
You're right about that, where it's the small things that count. Like
Yeah.
men, the easiest thing that they can do, and most men aren't even consciously aware of this, is learning how to speak.
Ah.
The ability the ability to carry on a conversation. Like I've seen comments here in the chat say, "Oh, clutch sounds so natural." That's not by accident. Like I've taken speaking courses, I've presented in front of 500 or 600 people in my field in my career. I've had practice.
Mm-hmm.
And the easiest thing that any person can do, men or women, is to learn how to speak, to learn how to carry a conversation. Because guess what? If the older you get, especially on these dating apps, the more awkward the people are going to get. Because you're dealing with people coming out of divorces, you're dealing with people that maybe came out of long-term relationships. No one that's beyond 30 is on a dating app by choice, no matter what they tell you. So it's a concept of you have to definitely distinguish yourself from the rest. And one of the best things you can do is being able to carry a conversation.
And listen better. That's
Absolutely.
yeah, and listen better. Yeah, and that particular guy that I mentioned, just to circle back, he some of the books that I had recommended, and sometimes I'll give 3 different kind of perspectives, not to just throw one. He went back and he's like, I went back to this chapter, and I think it was, I want to say it was Models by Mark Manson. And he went back to this chapter about talking about, I forgot what it was exactly, bringing up topics to talk about during a date that you both had common ground. I forgot what it was, but he was looking for it, like how can I have a better conversation? How can I, in other words, it wasn't a blame on himself. It wasn't a blame on dating apps. He was like, let me see where I can get better at some of these little things. And it helped him. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, it's funny. Yeah, it's okay. And sorry for interrupting. One of the best skill sets I've learned, like I mentioned before that I was a pickup artist in my early to mid 20s. And the thing back then was that the thing I absolutely struggled with consistently was confidence. But the other aspect of confidence is the ability to carry a conversation, the ability to be yourself in frame in front of a group of strangers and not feel judged and not feel intimidated by it. But one of the things that they talk about is specifically in the routines that are called the mystery method. Mystery is one of the better known pickup artists.
I know who Mystery is from the book, The Game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. One of the things that he pushes is the concept of opinion openers. Like, you want to have any group of people, particularly women, engage with you in any way, shape, or form, ask them their opinion on something. It doesn't matter what it is. And you can definitely have fun with it. So, like, one of the things I had fun with, and this is just like a hidden pleasure of mine, or a guilty pleasure of mine, is
hidden pleasure of yours. Okay.
Yeah.
Please reveal.
Yeah, guilty pleasure. Yeah, was I would go to these parties in LA, and like that girl I told you about, the one who went on 3 days, she's really popular, so she get invited to these parties out in Beverly Hills, these parties out by the beach. You meet all different types of people, all of them full of themselves. And then you approach the most superficial women that you can find in that social setting and just say, oh, people here are just so superficial. And they just jump on that. And they say, I know, right? And then they start going and they start explaining themselves. And before you know it, they're your friends. And it's funny to play that dynamic, to play that card, because I do it jokingly, but I do it in a friendly way just to make friends, because I'm here. I don't know anyone. It's a question of just me putting myself out there. And regardless of whether or not I build a long-term connection from this or not, it's a good experience. And that's what we need to be more of, especially when it comes in the world of dating. Don't go into the date with an expectation that I've met Mr. Perfect and we're going to have 3 kids and be married in 5 years. It's a concept of, I'm going here to have a good time. And regardless of whether or not something good happens from this or not, I'm going to appreciate the experience and be glad I did it.
Yeah, and be present. And if it doesn't, I tell people, like, if you spill a drink, it's okay. If something goes wrong, it's okay. And that's the best place to be in, to have high expectations going into it. Sometimes you can have a bad date but still have a good connection or have a good ending to it, and it's fine. You learn something from it. You learn it. Some
of the best dates I've had have started off terribly. I've spilled drinks on myself, like at fancy restaurants, like wearing a full suit. I'm like, that's going to end terribly.
Yeah.
But in the end, we just laugh about it. We just say, look, it was like, talk about starting on the wrong foot. And in the end, you can make something happen. Does that mean it's going to automatically be a lifelong success? No, but it's a funny story to tell people later on.
And those are guys that did really well with women when I was in my 20s, and they just didn't care as much. They wouldn't care, right? They wouldn't be insecure, or and you'd look to the side and you'd be like, God, he's being an ass. But he's being an ass without a care. It's like... And that's, a lot of times that's what is attractive. That's attractive to women, that you are comfortable in your own skin and those kinds of ways. But yeah, it's definitely changed the dynamics from my 20s with the dating apps. It's changed a lot. It's changed a lot, and it's one of those things. I don't think it's gonna change back to where it was. So,
one of the things that I normally do on dating apps, I probably shouldn't give this away, but I'm going to give it away. One of the things that I do, and this just has to do with the level of character I am. I'm naturally a joker. I make very inappropriate jokes in public settings. That's just the way I am. For my dating profile, specifically on Tinder, every single one of my pictures is actually a PowerPoint presentation. So the first pic is me presenting like the great, my actual name is Marcos, the great Marcos. And then the second one is like showing a pie chart, how I spend my time, like 30% at work, 30% at the gym, 50% being social, like just random things like that. And I would usually leave a hook where I'd have a line chart saying like my financial success, my happiness. And I would always have a dip in happiness in 1 year. And without fail, every single woman that matched me would say, what the hell happened in 2006?
Oh, you had the open loop.
Yeah, exactly.
You left the cliffhanger. You put the open loop, a little psychology trick, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And it was just a funny joke. And like, I'd be on dates with these women, and even when I met their friends, they were like, "Oh, this is the PowerPoint guy." Like, it was a story to tell people, and I didn't care. I laughed it off. I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, I'm here having a good time,
right?
And that's the main thing.
Well, and it was different. Because that's the thing with the dating apps is women, like you just said, that get clicked on a lot are when the guy goes, "Hey, how you doing?" It's like, I've heard that 20 times. You got anything else? I've had women tell me that before. Is that all you have? Oh, you said I looked cute in my picture.
Well, like, ask any woman that's ever been on a dating app, how common do they get, "Oh, I normally don't do this, but you look absolutely stunning." Like, be more realistic.
I haven't heard that. It's bad.
Yeah, like, be a little more realistic, guys. Like, it's not like I'm not saying to openly neg the woman or make fun of her frame, but just like make fun of the fact that dating apps are stupid, and we all recognize they're stupid, but they're sort of a necessary evil, especially now. Like, we're all in isolation, we're all in the same mindset. All of us want to get life back to normal. I get it, but there's some unification and there's some maturing that all of us have gone through. Like, we're seeing it right now, the people that are willing to hammer down and live in a bunker for the protection of their loved ones, and the ones that really are being selfish and really are eager to get back out there and to be interacting with other people. Like, this is telling us a lot about people's characters, and people aren't going to forget that. So, of course, as we come out to quarantine, when we're going to have a surplus of people in the dating realm, specifically because of the high rates of divorce and separations that are going to happen once quarantine is up, people are all going to be in the same boat. It's going to be scary for a lot of people, and it's important to not lose that sense of fun, because dating needs to be fun. And I'm seeing Jen's comment here, and I don't know if you wanted to comment on it. Jen, I understand the frustration, but if you don't make it fun, it's not going to be fun. And you have to put yourself out there vulnerably. And I know it's easy for me to say that, being in a good mindset, but I wasn't always in this mindset. I wasn't always in a good place. I had mentioned to Mac in the last episode that I went through about 3 years of severe depression. But the only way that I was able to pull myself out of it was because I became dedicated to that task. Now, we can talk about routines, we can talk about the aspect of what it takes to get someone out there. But the first thing that you have to want is you have to be willing to acknowledge that there's a problem and be willing to address it. Because if you don't do that, if you're just giving me excuse after excuse, I can't help you and you can't help you. You have to make that decision that you want to change, no matter what.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And ironically, Jen, you are being playful. You are being fun with it, right? You are being fun with it by your comment, because you said, "Sorry, I had to laugh. I'm going here to have a good time. I don't find anything fun about dating. I'm not a dater. I'm a relationship person. I know that I need one to find the other." So that is funny, because I think you're being playful. There's nothing fun about rejection, whether big or small rejection. It chips away at self-esteem. So really, in that second comment, what you're saying is you don't like rejection more than dating. Because dating dating involves rejection, right? It does. I mean, because it's not Hollywood and we're not just lily padding, you know, we're not leapfrogging just to one relationship to the next and they're all good. Even people that have a lot of options, let's just say someone that is, you know, checks a lot of boxes for a lot of people, right? They have money, they have looks, they, you know, they have personality, they have everything. And you think to yourself, you might have a friend, family, or colleague like this that you go, wow, they just have it, right? Like, and they just get a new partner easily. Those relationships still don't always work out for them. Everyone meets their match. It's like, what I mean by that is even people that seemingly have a lot more options and seem to get better catches or into relationships quicker, they still, you know, deal with problems in their relationships. I never forgot I had one client. She was in her late 20s, very attractive woman, had a master's degree, lived in a very expensive area in the world. Just had a lot of things lined up, right? I mean, I knew she went through a bad breakup, and she was shocked because, like I just said, he left me. You know what I mean? And she wasn't stuck up or conceited. She was like, you know how many guys at work approach me? You know, and I'm thinking to myself in the live coaching session, I believe you. I believe it wasn't, you know, great personality, well spoken, you know, and she ended up with a guy, I think within 2 or 3 months, that was like a manager at her company or something like that. I don't know how it ended up, but I'll tell you this: everyone from the outside in her relationship thought it was peaches and cream. And when we got into it in the coaching session, there was reasons why they broke up. There was reasons why the guy left her. And those were reasons that no one would see with the naked eye, if you know what I mean. So sometimes you look at other people and you think, wow, they're easily attracting other people because this, and this. And a good example is you're talking about pickup artist and mystery, and I don't know, probably not everyone's familiar with that book, The Game. Obviously, I'm going to assume you are, right, Clutch?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
And then his follow-up, The Truth, which was better than The Game.
I think so as well.
Because it was the truth.
Yeah.
You guys have to read both of them to get what I'm saying, because I'm like, okay. But I mean, he met his match. So here he is. He became a pickup artist, and he got, you know, pretty much most women that he wanted. And then he found a woman that he couldn't play or you know, leave so easily. And I think the same thing happened to that guy Mystery, right? He met his match too, in a sense that it stopped him from being a pickup artist in some ways. And so I think everyone's gonna meet their match, however good they are. Go ahead.
Yeah, and sorry for interrupting. Like, Mystery was a very unique thing because, like, he's not a bad person. But I know more about Mystery because I was part of the Mystery forums back in the day. Like, I would follow these stories and what happened. And with Mystery, it was more along the lines of he was your stereotypical, still is to a certain extent, stereotypical person with abandonment issues. So the whole concept of him taking up pickup archers, or the Venusian arts as it's called, is that he was trying to compensate for something. I usually tell people, like, pickup artists are nothing more than fearful avoidance teaching anxious people how to pick up dismissive. it's just so true. Like, I took a step back. I'm like, oh my God, like, how many times did I spend, like, wooing this dismissive girl who had no emotional connection or ability to connect with other people? And I would waste my time pulling my hair out, many aspects very much like Mystery. But this is the thing with these techniques, the way that they're taught in the game and in the Mystery method, they're meant for a specific kind of person.
Yes.
The irony is the person that they're meant for are dismissives. Because these are the people that have high value. These are the people that are used to getting approached. These are the people that have a surplus mindset. So if you go up to them and you act like they're no big deal, they're going to be intrigued. And they're going to be like, wow, like, this is amazing. This guy actually has high value. But then, of course, you get into the emotional vulnerability aspect of things, where you start becoming emotionally vulnerable. And like I mentioned the last time we spoke, you can't be around that chaos for an extended period of time and not have it affect you. And this is where I feel that mystery failed, but Style, who's Neil Strauss, succeeded. Style was able to look at a situation and say, there's a problem here. I'm still not happy. I'm still feel unfulfilled. I have the perfect girl of my dreams, at least at the beginning of the truth, and I don't want to spoil the end for the rest of you. But at the beginning of the book, he has the perfect person, but he's still not happy and he doesn't know why. And that's really where I see things like Red Pill, Blue Pill, Pickup Artistry going, is that it's sort of a catalyst. It's a way to allow people to start discovering this aspect of themselves that they have neglected, either because, dad wasn't around when, he left mom, or maybe I have deep-rooted abandonment issues because, my mom left at a very young age, or maybe I grew up in a household that was very toxic where the only form of communication was yelling. Fully guilty of that, by the way. These are aspects that make us our characters, and in order for us to progress forward and in order to learn and to build a connection, and I really resonate with Jen because I really see myself in her, at least a certain part of me in her at a certain time in my life. The aspect is that until I was willing to admit that I was part of the problem as well as part of the solution, I wasn't going to get any better. And this is where a lot of channels such as this one or my own really hit that crossroads. Breakups are tough, and no one is saying that they aren't traumatic, but that trauma in itself is there to teach you something about yourself. And whether or not you internalize that lesson and whether or not you reflect on it and learn from it and progress it moving forward, or whether or not you choose to suppress it and run to the next person and the next relationship and the next relationship, has everything to do with your character and where you are in life. I don't want for people to suppress their emotions so much where they find themselves in a certain time in their lives where they feel isolated and alone and unattractive, and then all of a sudden don't know what to do. That's not a good place to be in. Doesn't mean that you can't get out of it. I just don't want you to be in.
I agree. I think that you made some great points, and from the outside in, Jen, because you're being vulnerable and small rejection, it chips away self-esteem. I get it. I'm with you. I mean, it's everyone can go, oh, rejection's your friend, and you just get over it. I get it. But part of it is realizing that that's the issue, right? That is the issue, rather than it not just not liking dates, but deeper than that is the part where you get rejected by someone you like. And that's why I brought up the story of that guy, and he's talked about maybe even coming on the live stream, but it was such a great thing, because you probably have this too when you do live coaching sessions and you get to know people, and it's like you're rooting for them. Does that make sense? I guess it's a coach word, right? You're rooting for them, and when things change in a way that's positive, and he gave me a lot of credit, and I was like, this is one of those things that you didn't lay down. And he had a couple times, like, he was hurt, man. He was hurt by. And his dynamic, we got really deep because he had a father that wasn't necessarily abusive, but his father was really hard on him as a kid, and he just couldn't win. He never got any attention. He said he got straight A's, and his dad was like, "Oh, you could do better." And he's like, "How? A pluses?" And it was like, okay. And he had these things, and then his parents got a divorce, and he had 3 sisters, and they all used to tell him, "You're just like Dad." So he was like, some of the things that would come up, and he would end up with these women that would just doormat him, and he would, and so he went through a transformation. He did a lot of work on himself. He actually married a woman when he was 21 or 22 that was 15 years older than him.
The man likes experience.
There you go. Right? And he was like, and I loved her and stuff like that, and the age being a difference, obviously it took its toll, as I think he was 40 or something late 40s, and he got a divorce and stuff like that. When he entered the dating field, he was, it was like he never was really in it ever. But what was beautiful about his journey is he just was willing to not just get rejected, but deal with it, And part of it was talking about it with me. Just helped him get it off his chest. Because sometimes, I think you might agree, sometimes no one's doing anything wrong, but they just need to be reassured that they're not doing something wrong. If that do you know what, like, Actually, he didn't do anything wrong here. I would tell him.
Oh,
Sometimes,
absolutely.
sometimes
Yeah, absolutely.
that's timely. That's really
Well,
timely.
think about the perspective of someone who's never had that reassuring voice, never had that
Yeah,
parent reassuring them. Like, they're essentially regressing back to being alone in their bedroom, like
right.
feeling high levels of anxiety. And yeah, I can empathize with that more than most, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you can empathize with that as well. It's an aspect of when you tell someone, and this is probably one of the hardest breakups to deal with, is when the person coming to you has, in reality, hasn't done anything wrong. Like, that takes a lot of
Hmm.
reflection to get past that, because life is unfair. Like, hate to be the one to tell you, but there are going to be things that happen in your life that are outside of your control that aren't inherently fair, and you have two options. You can either regress from it and resent it, or you can make something of it. And regardless of whatever you choose, life is going to continue with or without you. It's a
Hmm.
question of whether or not you want to recover from this and whether or not you want to build from it.
Hmm.
It's not. Hate to be the one to tell you, but
Hmm.
that's just how it is.
Jen has one more comment here. Mac, you know this because we've done coaching before, so I know we're on a different
Mm.
level. But I'm worried that I'm running out of time. I feel like I missed my window of opportunity while single and raising kids. I'm gonna touch on this, and then I'll let you touch on it after Clutch, because I just want to say something real quick. I recently just saw a TED Talk, which I love TED Talks, and sometimes I don't watch them for a long time, and then you binge watch them or something like that, or they come up in the suggested videos. But this guy was on, and he was saying how when he was in school, he was thought to be hyperactive, and he wasn't a very good student. Okay, and then he said he was able to, which was interesting because he was able to get into college, but I don't know how that was. But he got into college. He wasn't doing very well in school, and so he said one day he made a marginal change, a small change, where he decided to start studying in 20-minute or 10-minute intervals and reading books 10 minutes at a time rather than try to do an hour. And he said it absolutely changed. Now, this might even sound far-fetched to some people, like, wow, that just changed it. He said it was a marginal change, and at that point, his grades went from C's to A's, and it was a big difference in his life. He went on to describe how he learned a new language, how he did this, how he did this. It's a great video. I got to put it on the Discord. But he said each time, for example, when he learned a new language, he said he was working, I think he was working at some corporate company in Europe somewhere, and he had to make this walk every day for an hour through a park, and he'd listen to music. So he said, I've always wanted to learn German, so he said, I started listening to language tapes in German. Marginal change. In other words, I didn't go to class. Instead of using music, I decided to use that hour for that. And he learned German within 6 months or something like that. But I thought to myself, not to get too detailed into this because I don't know it verbatim, the video, but a lot of times a marginal change is the domino. Like sometimes we get caught up in, I just want to have a relationship, but a marginal change in your attitude or some kind of habit could be a difference that you're not looking at, Jen. And I don't have the answer right now, by the way. I'm not going to just pull a rabbit out of the hat and go, do this and it'll work. Because people that know my channel know that I don't do that. That someone was just saying that a couple days ago, Mac, you'd have so many more viewers if you just sold hope more. And I'm like, okay, thank you. But going back to Jen's comment, I think that you absolutely did not miss your window. That's a perspective and an interpretation that you have a choice in making. And by the way, raising your kids and doing whatever you had to do for that, which you're very proud of, and having a job that you're very proud of, you're in a very good position now because you got those things. I don't want to use the word out of the way for kids, but because I know your kids are grown and they're doing really well. You've done great. Now you're in a position to embrace this new challenge. But you didn't miss a window of opportunity because you're in your 50s right now. I mean, I'll let Clutch give his opinion.
No, you definitely haven't missed the window. There's a couple of things with that aspect of
Sure.
the window, because biologically speaking, women have every right to feel like there's a window.
That's true.
And historically speaking, that's been the case. The last 20 years of medical research, and this just has to do with my research and my off time. I love reading on things I know nothing about. This is just one of my pastimes. Things like the theory of the singularity. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the theory of singularity at all, Coach Mac.
No, go ahead, shoot. I'll listen.
The theory of singularity is that human beings at some point in the next 100 years will reach a climax where they can integrate a human brain into a computer and vice versa. So what that means is that you can essentially transfer the consciousness of a human being into a computer. And what this essentially means is immortality.
Okay, I've heard of this, but I didn't know the name of the theory. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the thing with singularity is that all of a sudden it throws the concept of age out the window, because we progressively have started to get older and older and older. It's theorized that the oldest person that has ever lived is alive today, and it's going to live to be 150 within our lifetimes, or at least within their lifetimes. And the aspect there is that things that previously were deal breakers, like you go back to the early 1900s, the majority of people died in their 50s. And now people are living into their 70s and early 80s, and probably in our generation, it's going to be into the 90s and the 100s, mainly because there's been advancements in medicine, there's been advancements in research, and specifically there's been advancements in stem cell research. And I'm kind of paraphrasing the study because this is one of the many things I read in my off time, but 2 or 3 years ago, there was a Japanese firm that was able to take human blood cells, transform them into stem cells using blood, and actually transferred that into a human egg. So basically what that means is that certain aspects of having children are no longer limited by age. At least they won't be limited by age in the next 10 to 20 years. I'm not saying that you should want to have a kid into your 80s or 90s, but this whole concept of the window is now, it's now irrelevant. It no longer exists. And as technology advances, that dynamic advances. Similar to what happened with dating apps. When I was in my 20s, the way to go and meet people and to date people was to go to a bar, go to a club, get a little tipsy, approach people, dance with them, and at the end of the night, you would walk away with a phone number or two if you were lucky. Now, it's a case of opening a dating app. You're going to swipe left or right with hundreds of people, and if one of them clicks just right, you're going to walk away with that phone number. The dynamics of human interaction are changing. So I'm not saying that your emotions don't have validity. I'm not saying that I'm not here to support you emotionally if you want to talk about it, because I do want to be here. But there's an aspect of how much of this is internal conflict versus how much is actually external, real world environment. And that's really what you need to sit down with and really process and really dig through. Because a lot of times when people are dealing with things like insecurity, for example, or the ability of a window, what they're actually doing is they're actually reliving their childhood. I'm not saying that this is the case in this particular situation, but a lot of times if I sit down with people who say, you know, I feel like I'll never find anyone, and we'll sit down with them and I'll be like, well, tell me about your upbringing. And they'll tell me, oh, my parents were divorced. My mom was working 3 jobs and my dad left when I was 5. So essentially I was in charge of taking care of the household with like me and my 2 brothers and sisters. And of course you look back on and say, okay, so essentially you were left in charge and you were left alone. Yes. Tell me how that feeling is. And they're like, it's feeling anxious, alone, scared. How do you feel right now regarding this breakup? And it's the same emotions over and over. This is why it's important to go to therapy, regardless of whether it's with me or Mac. My coaching's ending this month, by the way, so I'm going to be pushing everyone I know to Mac. But the aspect is that talk to someone, get that off your chest, and
I'm the same.
You'll feel better.
I'm the same way. That's a great statement. I'm the same way. Talk to someone, and don't be afraid if you do talk to someone, and it's a therapist or someone that was recommended to you, and you don't have a good rapport, or you just don't like their approach, because people have different approaches. I think we've talked about this before. As long as your intentions are good, my intentions are always good. I always want to help you. So, if you try, like you said, you tried 17 different therapists. You know what I mean? Someone would go, oh, geez, this guy's really fucked up. Actually, he's saying, well, this isn't working for me, but I still want to try. Right? It's like, I know this one's not working, and I don't know, because I haven't been living in the States. I've been in the States, each year for a month or so in California. But the people that talk to me that sometimes talk to someone, a lot of people, you know, they have 10 people a day, you know, 1 hour at a time. That's a lot, you know, and they're all different issues. They're a broad base of issues. So you definitely need, when you do talk to someone, don't be afraid if it doesn't work out to try someone new that might suit you better. I think that's a great move. Like I said, from the outside, oh, this guy went to 17 different people? Wow. It's like, well, if they didn't meet up to your standards or you weren't making progress, you didn't blame it on them. You know, you didn't blame it on the individual. So that just might not be a good match. You know, it could be good for someone else. Jen, I am going to be in contact with you because it's been a while since I've seen you on the live stream, and you know, I want to follow up with you. But thanks for sharing, and thanks for providing some good content with some good questions and putting yourself out there a little bit. And you know, this kind of a problem or thought process that you're going through right now and that you've gone through for a while, you're not alone. You know that. This is something that you're still working through, but you definitely didn't miss your window. That's my opinion. That's one of those things that I'd like to help you reframe in a different way. Thank you. It was a good stream today. And I want to thank you, Clutch, for taking the time. I know this is a much more time-friendly time for you.
Well, I appreciate it. And again, Jen, thanks for being vulnerable. I know it's never easy to open up about one's insecurities. It's an interesting dynamic. And thanks for cushioning my fall and having those 17 therapists there. I have had people that tried to have criticized me for that in the past, and my reaction is the same. I'm like, I found someone I connected with.
Oh no, I mean, me being a coach on YouTube and helping people with breakups, it's really interesting journey in the sense that some people be like, I did talk to another I'm like, great, how'd it work out? I'm not threatened by that. I think that's fine. I'd like to hear feedback because I want to know, did it go well or did it go bad? What was about it? But you definitely should find someone that you're comfortable with, because coaches, therapists, they vary. They vary. Doctors vary, just like car mechanics vary, right? I remember when I was young, well, I know nothing about cars, right? And I would always be like, is this guy screwing me? You know, like, yeah, we found this too. And I'd go to AutoZone to get my oil changed. Yes, I didn't ever change my own oil. I'd get and they'd go, we actually found a few more things, man. Can you sit down? And I'm just like, what's this? You know, I just want my oil changed. Well, actually, you familiar with the air filter? It's supposed to be changed actually every few months. I'm like, I don't even know. What do you mean? Well, we'll change it for you. What's this much? It's not. And I'd be like, I don't know. It's like, you go to these different places. Sometimes you get someone that's telling you the truth. Sometimes you don't. And I think that with coaching and therapy, it's more of a feeling. It's more of a feeling of comfort and rapport, and it's intuitive. And if you have that good feeling, stick with that person. And it's good for both of you, actually. I know that I get really close to my clients, and like I said, I root for them. And it's a good place to be.
The best story I've ever had with a mechanic was I went to a mechanic to also get an oil change. Because much like you, I don't do my own oil change. I probably should learn it. That should be a new task for 2022. But they came to me and they said, we just noticed that you need your transmission fluid changed. And I looked at them and I said, it's a standard transmission. And they kind of looked at each other and they're like, oh, never mind.
Right? Like at least you knew that. You know what? I'll tell you. I'll add one to it. My mom worked for a dentist for years as an office manager for, I don't know, 30 or 40 years. Forgive me, Mom, for not knowing the exact years, but from 20 years old till I think 55, so 35 years or something. Same office. So she knew dentists from around the way. And I remember my ex-girlfriend went to a dentist I forgot what she had to get done. Something more than a cleaning. And my mom was like, oh, you're going to Dr. Wolf? And that was the guy's name. And I'm like, to my girlfriend, and I was like, what's the big deal, Mom? And she's like, oh, he's got a reputation for overcharging. I'm like, dentist overcharge? She goes, oh, yeah, because of insurance. So they know you have insurance. So they'll create I'm like, dentist will do that? Oh yeah. I'm like, fuck, that's scary. I would never think that. I would never, but I wouldn't know to say, if someone says I have a problem with my teeth, I wouldn't go, I need a second opinion on that. If it's someone I went to a dentist for. So it's kind of one of those things, like I said, we're getting off topic, but when you go to a coach that you're not comfortable with or you don't like, go to a different one or a therapist. Get a different person.
And more money doesn't mean better quality, guys. There's no need to spend $1,000 an hour. Please don't. Please don't. There's so many better things you can spend that money on.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of options now. There's more and more and more options. That's for sure. I think the route that you went and I went with YouTube, I think you get a really good sample size of who someone is before you get in there and talk to them. So,
This is true.
I'm going to close this out because it's getting close to my bedtime. And it's been fun. We'll do it again, Clutch. Congratulations on moving back to L.A. or Santa Monica?
Orange County, actually. But yes, close enough.
All right. So that should be exciting. Are you excited to move back?
Yes and no. Truth be told, the reason I had an open slot today, and I noticed you were streaming, is I was supposed to get vaccinated today, but the government today pushed it back by 2 days. So I'm hoping to be vaccinated fully vaccinated with the booster by the time I go back to California, but we'll see.
Okay.
We shall see.
Okay. Well, I wish you all the best, bud. We'll be in contact. Thanks for joining me today. It's been great, and we'll hopefully do it again. And like I said, Jen, CD, Ozzy 411, all the rest of you, it's been good. It's been grand. It's been wonderful. Thanks for joining.
We need to still talk about your Discord. You're not utilizing it properly.
I know.
Let's talk offline.
Yeah, we will. We will. Thanks, bud.
All
I
right,
appreciate your help. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.